Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was Hokage before chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Jiraiya's lost student, link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Wake him up. I woke up a few minutes ago. Stated Naruto as he tested his restraints, his eyes covered by a thick cloth and his body chained to a chair. Chakra suppressors, huh? Is that why can't I activate the Rinnegan? And why can't I feel Kurama? Well good, that will save some time. Stated a familiar voice. Care to explain why we found you with a whirlpool and Konoha headband? I doubt you have dual citizenship. Not fully contemplating what the man interrogating him meant, he decided to give up nothing. My mother was from Whirlpool, my father was from the Leaf. I'm sorry to hear that they are both passed. It's a shame when parents can't watch their children grow. Stated the interrogator, sympathy in his voice. Though I question, are you a Yamanaka? A Yamanaka? I'm the goddamn Hokage. How does this man not know me? Or are they trying to get me to spill secrets? Wondered Naruto as he continued to contact Kurama. As far as I know, my father was civilian born. Though I've been told I look like a senju. Hilarious, though I suppose you would look like Tsunade if you had straight hair and brown eyes. Stated the interrogator, almost as a forethought. Who sent you to infiltrate a Wagakure? I came of my own accord. Stated Naruto as he contemplated his predicament. Your leader attacked my supply line to Namigakure. I came to retaliate. Wave. I sent no attack to Wave, stated another voice, one that Naruto immediately recognized. Inoki. You know me by voice alone, I see. Stated the Kage who hovered behind the blonde. Tell me, what happened to this so-called supply line that you say I had attacked? Cheap trick, Itsuchi. You know I killed that old man in Kumo. Take this blindfold off. Stated Naruto dismissively. I see, he's trying to get me off my rocker. But why though? Naruto's blindfold was removed and he was shocked to see Inoki staring him in the eyes. A much younger Inoki. What did you just say? Questioned the Sandaime Tsuchikage calmly, hiding the shock he felt when he had called out for his not yet born son. You heard me, I killed Inoki at the chunin exams invasion. Put my fist through his torso. Stated Naruto, his eyes staring through Inoki and into the man behind him. There was something familiar about him. I don't have time for your insanity. Dismissed Inoki as he turned to leave. Kill him. Hey, not Inoki, when does the side effects of that displacement of time shit wear off? Questioned Naruto. I want my stomach to stop flip-flopping. Inoki froze, his mind racing. Get out and seal the room. Inoki turned his head and roared at the interrogator. Now. It was several minutes later when Inoki finally moved, taking up an eye-level position in front of the blonde. You said that someone, obviously of Iowa, used a displacement of time on you. What year did that take place? Naruto, finally beginning to see the possibility that something was terribly wrong, answered. 482. I see. Stated Inoki, his eyes showing sympathy. That vile jutsu sent you back 35 years. It is 447. And that's not all, that jutsu removes you from your timeline and adds you to another. So you're telling me that you really are Inoki of both scales? Questioned Naruto. Yes, but not the one you knew, or apparently killed rather. That jutsu is of the highest level secrecy. The fact that you even know its name tells me that whoever became the Kage of this village saw you as a big enough threat to sacrifice their life to remove you from existence. Stated Inoki with a look of disgust on his face. They would have been 35 when they cast it. It is an old Uzumaki Fuinjutsu that takes away the life lived by the caster and sends the target back and away. I am extremely sorry about this. But this world is not your own, there will be differences in this world, events that haven't happened, history that has been changed from what you know. Even the very timeline may be skewed. Why should I bell of any of this? I've been the goddamn Hokage for 4 years before this happened. As far as I know, Kitsuchi set this all up and is holding me for ransom. Stated Naruto as he tried to activate his Dijutsu again, meeting the same futility. I shall have a letter penned and sent to Hiruzen. It is up to you to believe me. You are currently being held in a stronghold 3 miles southeast of Iwagakure. I shall have my fastest bird deliver the letter. Stated Inoki as he got up and channeled chakra into the door, unlocking it and allowing Naruto to smell the fresh air. I'm sorry this happened to you, Hokage Dono. Please allow your history to stay in your timeline. This will be my only act of kindness. Just know that the jutsu that was used on you has been used on members of this world as well. There is no known way to get back to your world. And with that, Inoki disappeared out the door, leaving Naruto in the interrogation room unwatched, and from what Naruto could tell, he was completely unguarded. Breaking the chain around him and removing the remaining restraints, Naruto found that he had 8 chakra suppression tags around his body. Okay, that's excessive. Once all of the seals were removed, Naruto channeled some nature chakra and found that the stronghold had actually been abandoned, though he could feel a large group of ninja on the outskirts of the far wall. Naruto attempted to hurration away, but was unable to find any markers other than the ones in his kunai pouch, which he flashed to. Deciding that it wouldn't be a good idea to wear his cage outfit, he sealed his possessions into the seal on the back of his palm. Naruto checked once more and found that the ninja were heading back into the stronghold, so he entered sage mode and fled out the nearest wall, blowing through the brick and mortar, then heading south as fast as he could. Sir, I believe it was wise to let that man go. When he removed the chakra suppression seals his reserves boosted too well above yours, and when he left his reserves exploded. Stated the man that had interrogated Naruto. You're dismissed, Mr. Marino. You will keep this secret. Stated Inoki as he floated into the air and began moving toward the village. Kitsuchi, what could have caused my son to use the forbidden jutsu? And on a cage no less. 6 hours later, Naruto had been running through all the possibilities in his mind as he ran through the woods. It was quickly becoming obvious that Inoki had been telling the truth and that this truly was the past, or a past. After Naruto accepted that, he began concocting his next step. Obviously he would work to get back to his world, but if Inoki was correct, then he would have to wait for Jiraiya to pull him back from the other side. That would mean that Naruto would most likely be stuck here for an unknown amount of time. But what if I am stuck here? That thought made him stop in his tracks. Maybe I'll give it a month. If I'm still here in a month, then I'll settle down and start building a new life. Jiraiya needs to hurry up with his seal. Konoha, Team Sarutobi stood across from Hiruzen, having been summoned just moments ago. I just received a notice from Inoki. He claims to have just captured and released a ninja claiming affiliation with our village. He says the young man is extremely powerful and loyal and that he would not be in our records. Stated Sarutobi, gaining various looks from all three of his students. What ninja would we have operating near Iowa? They bowed out almost a year ago. Stated Jiraiya. Is there any chance it was one of Danzo's men? How powerful is he? Questioned Orochimaru. We did just get Suna to bow out of the war after Tsukumo took down Chiyo's division. He could boost our ninja count while we try to take down Aim and Kiri. His identity is unconfirmed, though if he were Danzo's, then he wouldn't have been found. Stated the third. I don't like it. My informants haven't said anything about a rogue nin that was loyal to Konoha and we haven't sent anyone out there. Stated Jiraiya. And Iowa is still neutral bordering on enemy with us. If they had one of ours in custody, why would Inoki release them? Did he give a name? Questioned Tsunade. I'd like to check against hospital records. His parents might have been nin. She was interrupted as Jiraiya took off out of the window of the office, Orochimaru and Hiruzen following him. By the time Tsunade caught up with her sensei, they were all standing at the gates. Behind her was a small gathering of shinobi. But it was what was in front of her that had Jiraiya so tense. The tall, extremely muscular, blonde young man was staring down Orochimaru with a smoldering glare. His tight black muscle shirt and baggy pants somehow made him look more menacing. I assume you are the one Inoki specified. Stated Hiruzen. I'd appreciate it if you didn't direct that killing intent at my pupil. With all due respect, sir, he was the one that directed it at me first. Stated Naruto as he looked over them. Wow, pervy sage looks young. Tsunade and Orochimaru look the same. Go figure that. With pitiful killing intent like that, I could beat him to death with a blade of grass. You are an unknown being that was moving at the village at a high rate of speed. Stated Orochimaru. You're quite lucky that I didn't kill you. Naruto ignored the snake summoner's spike of chakra and instead focused on the third Hokage. Naruto knew he would have to gain the man's trust, and other than the Hokage's password, that would be a tall order. On top of that, Konoha was still at war with Kiri and Aim. If Naruto was correct, then Jiraiya being in the village meant that the trio had not yet fought Hanzo of the Salamander, which also meant that his would-be father was most likely not yet in the village, nor was his mother. That was why Kurama wasn't responding to him and why he couldn't use his Rinnegan. Kurama must have either stayed in his time or was sucked into his previous host. Without Kurama, Naruto didn't have a strong enough link to the sage and most likely couldn't use the first 4 forms of his Dijutsu either. That would mean that Kurama was still in Mido. That meant a new problem. Without Kurama, Naruto would need to stay in Sage mode to use his fighting style. Thank God he still had Hiraishin in Sage mode. Okizama, Inoki of both scales, said he sent word. Did he inform you of myself? Questioned Naruto as he visibly relaxed, confusing most watching, as they were all completely on edge. Indeed. He claimed you were completely loyal to my village. Strange coming from another cage. Stated Hiruzen. You appear to be well trained. Who trained you? A toad, a slug, a swordsman and a monkey. Stated Naruto, drawing an arching eyebrow from the sandame. Oh. And a scarecrow. Can't forget him. I see. Stated the professor, his mind wandering. The toad contract only has 3 names on it and Jiraiya is the only living summoner. The slug contract has only ever been in Senju hands. And a swordsman. Not many Konoha use swords, that's Kiri and Kumo and the royal family of Yuzu. And a scarecrow. The Haddock perhaps, but Tsukumo and Indi are the only 2 left. Sensei. He feels dangerous. Stated Jiraiya. Only 3 people ever felt dangerous to Hiruzen's student and that was Hiruzen himself, Danzo Shimura and Tsukumo Haddock. I want you 3 to take him in, but leave him alive. Stated Sarutobi before he raised his voice and looked out at Naruto. I advise you impress me. I'd like you to answer some questions once you've recovered. Before most could blink, Orochimaru appeared behind the blonde and aimed a kick at his head, only for Naruto to catch his leg effortlessly, smashing Orochimaru into the ground before backhanding him across the cheek, sending him bouncing away like a child's ball. Jiraiya and Tsunade simply stated in awe. The blonde had just effortlessly handed Orochimaru his own ass, and the snake summoner still wasn't getting up. He hadn't even moved his feet. But it was something that Jiraiya saw that made him quake in his sandals. Just as Orochimaru had launched his kick, the pigment around the blonde's eyes changed from smooth tan to dark orange. Even though he couldn't use Sage Mode, he knew that happens when Fukasaku used in their spars. No, that's impossible. It's not the first time we have seen Orochimaru get overconfident. Stated Tsunade as she entered her battle stance. No. I wouldn't fight him. Not only would he defeat me effortlessly, he is a rank higher than I am. Stated Jiraiya, confusing Tsunade. Hiruzen Sarutobi simply nodded. Tell me Jiraiya. As an elite jonin, how is this young man a higher rank than you? Whatever his summon is, he has become a master. I no longer doubt he could kill all of us if he wanted to. Stated Jiraiya, his hands shaking. What has gotten into you? Questioned Tsunade, watching him shake like a leaf. So what he has a summon, all 4 of us do. Jiraiya is correct. Anbu. Bring him to integration. Stated Sarutobi as he looked over the young blonde who was staring at the Hokage monument. Please come along. A sage. I too saw the pigment change in his eyes towards him. Once again. Name, rank, affiliation, date of birth and ninja ID. Stated the Hokage as Inomaru, Inoichi's father if Naruto guessed correctly, monitored his vitals, a simple but effective way to detect lying. But the sigh, Naruto repeated. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Godame Hokage, Konohagakure October 10, 465, 012607. He believes he is telling the truth. Stated Inomaru surprisingly. He's either under a Jinjutsu or he is actually telling the truth. You'd be shocked at how much chakra it would take to put a Jinjutsu on me. Stated Naruto with a laugh, raising Sarutobi's suspicions. You are dismissed then, Inomaru. Please apply the soundproofing seals. Stated Hiruzen to the Yamanaka head as he sat down gracefully across from Naruto and waited patiently. You claim to have been Hokage. I believe you know what you need to do to confirm that with me. Naruto once again found himself marveling at the fact that Hiruzen Sarutobi, the legendary 3rd Hokage, was no older than 35. Naruto could tell that he was extremely powerful. He remembered back to the fight against Orochimaru, how frail the man looked as he handed him the title of Hokage. No way I'm going to let that happen here. I won't let you make that mistake twice. Jiji, how bad would it turn out if I just killed him? Even though the eyes of the stone see all, it is the ears of the shadow that warn. Recited Naruto, his eyes matching Hiruzen's as they analyzed each other. Sarutobi nodded grimly. So what you say is in fact true. I am the only living person that knows that verse. Inoki said that it was a result of an old Uzumaki jutsu. In my time, we were at war with Iwa. I was leading the charge to finish the fight. Actually, I was the only one leading the charge. I was absorbed by an unknown jutsu, then I woke up in an Iwa stronghold. Stated Naruto honesty. I need to find his notes. If my great-grandfather invented this jutsu, then maybe his notes can get me home. Why attack yourself? Did you not have good generals? Questioned Sarutobi, his mind swirling. After all, this is the risk when the leader of the village heads the fight. I always lead my troops. I will be the first to die. In my 4 years as Hokage, there was only 3 field casualties under me. I drank myself to sleep for a week before I got over it enough to reform my policies. Stated Naruto. There are 9 cage level ninja in my village that can take over my responsibilities should I fall. An admirable trait. Will you join this village, even as a chunin? Questioned the Hokage. 9 cage level shinobi. How do you even make that up? I joined as a genin. This is my village and these are a few of the people I loved in my time. I'd only join this village. Stated Naruto. But I will be truthful with you, I must return to my own time, I long for my loved ones and it's not even been a day. Matters of the heart are not a fickle subject. Stated Hiruzen sympathetically, thinking of his wife and soon-to-be-born son. I can assign you to a non-combative, non-essential role to allow you to search for your answers, but anyone I send to you I want trained, do you understand? Absolutely. This may not be my Konoha, but I'll make it the best Konoha it can be. Stated Naruto with confidence. What is your summon? Are you a sage? Naruto growled a bit at the suddenness, alarming the Hokage. I should have known better than to use that in front of Jiraiya. I am the second toad sage. My master was the first. If Jiraiya was the toad, Tsunade would have been the slug. Am I the monkey? Yes. You trained me from a very young age. I was an Anbu at the age of 7 and a full Anbu at the age of 9. Stated Naruto. At 9? Were you meant to be a super soldier? Questioned Sarutobi. Were we always at war? Of sorts. My father died the day of my birth, as did my mother. Their death left me as a target. Stated Naruto as he looked the Hokage in the eyes. In my time, my father was the Yondaime. He devastated Iowa in the Third Great War. They hated him so much that they came after me. Iowa does hold a grudge rather well. Who was the swordsman and the scarecrow? The swordsman was a man who wielded the Kubikirabacho. I defeated him on a mission and he agreed to join our village when he became a missing nin. The scarecrow was Sakumo Haddock's son. Stated Naruto with a sad smile. If you don't mind, I'd like a disposable almanac so I can see what is different in this world than mine. I've already spotted one that is rather major. I see. Do you believe that your appearance here will severely alter the history that you know? Asked Sarutobi seriously. I'm an upper tier Kage level on my worst day. I plan on altering as much as I can for the good of Konoha. Confirmed Naruto. I've killed Biju before and in my time, the only lands that were not allies of Konoha were the land of waterfalls, Iowa and a village in the land of rice that I plan of destroying before it comes to power. I assume you plan on staying under the radar while you are here? Questioned the Sandaime. As such a powerful and young ninja, that will not be easy, you will need a good cover story. I think I have a good one. Smirked Naruto. But first, I'm going to need that world's almanac I asked for. 2 days later, Training Ground 0. Naruto stood dead center of the Hokage's training grounds, carefully contemplating all that he had read and observed over the last 2 days. Shadow clones really were a marvelous thing. This village was different than his own. Hiruzen seemed to have a more militaristic mindset in this world, shown by Konoha bullying Iowa and Kumo out of this war, unlike in his time. Another thing he noticed was that Tobirama had perfected his version of the Hiraishin early on in the First War. Even though he still died to the Kinkaku force, he had killed all but one of them, forcing Kumo to bow out almost 5 years early. This led to the next huge difference. The Sannin of this time were all 4 years older than they were in Naruto's world, and Tsukumo was about a year younger. He had no clue exactly what caused this, but he figured that in the extended peacetime after the First War ended, it had changed the structure of the nations. The Sannin were older and more powerful in this world, and Tsunade was the apparent leader, not Orochimaru. Outside of that, Naruto had learned that the loss of Uzushio had sparked this war the same way that it did in his time, and that his mother was already in the village. She was 6, almost 7 and was set to gain guardianship of the Kyuubi in the next year. His father was most likely still in the southern fishing town where he was born. Sensei, do you believe this is necessary? Questioned Tsunade as she looked at the assembled shinobi. Tsukumo Haddock, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Kagami Uchiha, and her sensei, all in battle attire. They were the strongest left in the village, with Team Sarutobi set to deploy to AIM in 2.5 weeks, and Tsukumo set to lead a team to observe the border between Kusa and Iowa in 4 days. Yes. I believe it is best to test this man for his rank before he rejoins the village. Stated Sarutobi. He claims to have become very powerful, I have no reason to disbelieve him. I have to agree with Lord Hokage. Began Tsukumo, drawing Naruto's attention to him. I can tell that this man is powerful. You will all be testing Naruto here. He has agreed to not use his most destructive jutsus, which is most of them. Interrupted Naruto. And I would like you to all push him as far as you can. Stated Sarutobi. So who goes first? Questioned Orochimaru with a lightly concealed rage. You all are. Stated Naruto seriously. At once. Lord Hokage and Kagami-san are here to observe. That's preposterous. Stated Orochimaru, refusing to believe that this man, who looked at least 5 years younger than him, was head and shoulders better than them all. Oh. Tsukumo quickly ducked a strike to his neck, letting his momentum carry him away and regained his footing, only to watch Orochimaru barely dodge a blow to his abdomen that was followed quickly with a blur of motion past Tsunade, leaving the Kunoichi on her back, holding her right cheek. Jiraiya stood over her with Orochimaru falling in at Jiraiya's back, waiting for the blonde to strike. Tsukumo caught a fist that was heading toward his lower back, spinning around and launching a quick strike of his own. The punch never landed as Naruto spun into Tsukumo's guard, lashing out with an elbow. Tsukumo let go of Naruto's wrist, allowing Naruto to dance around Tsukumo and rain down blow after blow, most of which were parried or blocked. Naruto violently changed direction, throwing up earth as he spun and crushed a spin kick into Jiraiya's ribs, only for the man to dissolve into mud. Acting fast, Naruto flung a kunai into the ground and leapt vertically, causing Orochimaru and Tsunade to leap under him, stopping any angle of escape. The Naruto in the air burst into a puff of smoke, causing the duo's eyes to widen. The kunai that Naruto had thrown to the ground burst similarly, 2 Narutos leaping out of the smoke to latch on to Tsunade and Orochimaru. "Glide your bomb!" shouted Naruto as lightning exploded from his body as he latched onto Orochimaru and slammed him into the ground, a crater forming under the impact. Naruto was already on the move, he sped from Orochimaru to Tsukumo, intent on removing the biggest threat from the field. As he felt his clone dispel, he was slightly shocked that Jiraiya had swapped places with Tsunade, though he supposed it made sense. No one was as durable as Jiraiya, and he probably loved her just as much as in his time. Tsukumo once again engaged Naruto in hand-to-hand combat, trying to hold the frightening teen away from his comrades long enough for Tsunade to get the other two back in the fight. Tsukumo however was taken by surprise when the blonde disappeared, literally appearing in a flash of gold with a kunai against Tsunade's throat and an explosive tag on her mouth. The whole clearing stood still. While none of the Konoha ninja had actually gotten their feet under them in the fight, it was still unreal that one man, no older than a teen really, had single-handedly taken down 4 of the best ninja in the village. Orochimaru had yet to manage to stand up, Jiraiya was forced to avoid attacking due to the predicament that Tsunade was in, and even though Tsukumo had a chance to move to intercept, he didn't know if he was even fast enough to get there in time. This man is fast, far faster than even I could imagine. And the pure power and absolute grace in his movements, though Tsukumo gravely. Even with Kenjutsu I may not be able to defeat that man. I am frightened to see the jutsu he possesses. Sarutobi had the same thoughts going through his mind. The way he fights reminds me of Tobirama-sensei. And that golden flash, this man knows the Hiraishin, but a far greater version than what sensei could use. He must have marked her when he struck her. Jiraiya himself was sweating mentally. He didn't even use Sage mode. He could potentially be 10 times more powerful than this, perhaps I should train under him. This brat. He is so fast, so powerful, how can he be so superior to me? Questioned Orochimaru mentally before he caught a glance at Jiraiya, who looked to be contemplating something deeply. What are you thinking? I should maybe explain exactly why you were all brought here to test this young man. Stated Sarutobi, gaining the attention of the surrounding ninja. I'd like you all to formally meet Naruto Namikaze. A member of the Deep Cover Division. It was decided that he and his squad would be pulled out of his territory and would be reassigned to the military police upon return. However, 6 months ago, communication stopped and he was presumed dead. Deep cover? I thought that was just a myth. Stated Tsunade as she looked over the blonde. It was a distraction sent out by Tobirama Jiji during the First War. It is. Stated Kagami, confusing the group. The man you see before you is the last of the group. It's officially disbarred. Namikaze was and has been the last surviving member if it for the last 6 months. Naruto schooled his features, trying to display the persona that would warrant the backstory that Sarutobi had concocted for him. I lost my last teammate when we went too far north on a surveillance sweep. He was killed during nasty fight with a Hachibi Jinchuriki. I've been on my own ever since. Naruto has discovered and memorized plans and secrets from most of the nations. He will be kept in the village unless necessary to ensure he is kept safe. Stated Sarutobi. I have assigned him to the military police starting tomorrow. I hope he will be able to make bonds with our village while protecting its citizens. With all due respect, sir, I need a man like him in my squad. Stated Tsukumo. Even if it is just as a trainer for other hand-to-hand specialist. I am not a hand-to-hand specialist. Stated Naruto, once again throwing the collected shinobi for a loop. Specialties get you killed. I am a ninja, I specialize in everything. However, I am categorized under something more sinister. Naruto here will most likely be reforming the Deep Cover Squad after his 3-month probation. Stated Sarutobi. I advise you work well with him, my students. Naruto, you are dismissed, please accompany Kagami, he will be showing you your life for the next 3 months. Naruto nodded and followed the aged Uchiha out of the hidden clearing, leaving Team Sarutobi and Tsukumo in the training grounds, each having their own questions. Sensei, what classification does Namikaze fall under that would considered sinister? Is he a poisons expert? Questioned Orochimaru. He has amazing control, even at the high speeds that he moves at. Perhaps a look in his records. He is going to be listed as an A-rank ninja. Stated Sarutobi, Orochimaru grinding his teeth at the thought of someone on his own ranking being so superior to him. As far as I know, he is not a poisons expert. Naruto has a very particular set of skills and abilities that puts him in very good company. Before Orochimaru could question what exactly his skills were, Jiraiya interrupted him. He's a war machine. Correct. Naruto possesses nearly 5 times the reserves that I myself do, and has the jutsu arsenal to boot. From what I understand, he has a mastery over 4 of the elements. He has countless original jutsu, and unfortunately, he refuses to show them unless his comrades are in danger. Stated Sarutobi. Naruto has done his best to stay under the radar. He is a ghost. Other than my personal record for his unit, which was destroyed when his unit went missing, he has nothing tying him to this village but his loyalty. I don't have to tell you that it is paramount that he stays in this village. Was he born here? Questioned Tsukumo. He seems so familiar. I could swear I have seen him before. No, Naruto comes from a farming village in the Southlands, much like Jiraiya and you. Hiruzen explained to Tsukumo. That reminds me, I will need to send someone soon to check on the orphanage. With a nod, Tsukumo left, intent on spending the rest of his free time in the village with his wife before he was deployed. Sarutobi waited a moment so that he was left alone with his students. I hope this has humbled you all. Naruto is 6 years younger than you, and his power exceeds all of you. He is not alone in this world. When you are deployed to AIM, you will see what I am implying. You are dismissed. Police headquarters. Naruto had to admit, it was somewhat unnerving to see all the Uchiha in the village, but even more unnerving to see a cluster of them in the police headquarters. He followed Kagami into the building, his newly donned chunin flak jacket causing some odd stares as he followed the older Uchiha into the main office. Many of our ninja are of the Uchiha clan, but there are some that are not. Luckily, with your history most will see you as a battle-hardened warrior. Just do your best not to provoke the ire of the higher-ups. Naruto nodded as sat down across from Kagami as he started to fill out the paperwork to begin his career in police work. The Sandaime had been surprised when Naruto had suggested he be enlisted in the police force, but Naruto explained that he could help more in the long run if he did his probationary time as a public figure. The more exposure he had, the more people would want to find out about him themselves. If everything played out nicely, by the end of his 3-month probation, Naruto would be an accepted and hopefully respected member of the village. Then his real plan could start. If he was in the village that long, that is. Kagami-sama, we have a new recruit. Questioned a young but deep voice behind Naruto. Naruto paid him no mind as he continued to fill out his paperwork. Ah, if it isn't little Fugaku. Stated Kagami as he looked over Naruto's shoulder, getting a sound of agitation from the Uchiha. Yes, my nephew. Naruto here requested to become an officer when he returned to the village a few days ago. Fugaku? Sasuke's old man. Thought Naruto contemplatively. Wish I could just use a shadow clone to do this. Requested. Questioned Fugaku as he rounded the table and stood diligently at the chief's side. Most non-Uchiha shy away from the police. It's rather rare that one would like to join. I suppose I'm not like most people. Stated Naruto as he handed the forms back to Kagami and extended his gaze to Fugaku. Nice to meet you, I'm Naruto Namikaze. Fugaku Uchiha. Stated Fugaku as he stared down Naruto, his hand unmoving. Kagami sighed, his nephew wasn't the best with people. Naruto, report to the academy, you'll be filling in as a liaison when Kamito isn't available. Do you know the way? I believe I do. Have a good day Kagami-sama, you as well Fugaku. Stated Naruto before disappearing in a flash of gold, startling the ninja in the office. There's no doubt about it. That boy is performing the Hiraishin. Thought Kagami as he reminisced about seeing Tobirama use it in the first war. To use it so easily, just where have you been hiding this boy Hiruzen? I'd advise you not make an enemy of him, my foolish nephew. Stated Kagami, his tone serious. You may both be chunin, but he is your elder and he is exponentially more powerful than you. I doubt that seriously. Stated Fugaku. He's a fisherman. It's not like he is Akuma or Jiraiya. You're right. Admitted Kagami. The smirk on Fugaku's face growing. I watched Naruto not only hold his own in a spar with Tsukumo and Jiraiya, but Tsunade and Orochimaru as well. And he won. Man, this place is so different than the last time I was here. Stated Naruto as he walked through the entrance to the academy. The 2 large wings hadn't been added yet, the building was only the grand hall and the training grounds. Naruto had snooped around, finding the spots where a student could hide or a fight would be likely to happen. Overall, he was impressed with the chakra levels he was feeling. Haruka, all my classmates, damn, I've got to put it out of my head for now. Jiraiya can get me back, I know he can. Unlike in his days at the academy, there seemed to be a handful of Jonin-level shinobi in the building, though that could be due to the fact that they were still at war and they seemed to be on high alert throughout the village. So caught up in his musings, he missed what a passerby had said to him as he walked down the main hall. Oh, I'm sorry miss. You were saying. Naruto however had missed more than her question, he had missed her face as well. Dark blonde hair framed her face, her deep green pupil-less eyes were slightly covered on the right side of her face by a low-hanging bang. Her hair seemed to trail down her back in a tight ponytail that disappeared behind her shoulder. Her face was a light tan, her pointed nose and full lips standing out above her round cheeks and pointy chin. I asked if you were lost. I've watched you walk past my room twice now. It was weird enough when I saw you outside, now you're in here. Naruto was taken aback by her dismissing tone. Well, this woman was stunning, she, too, was wearing a chunin flak jacket and her tone left a lot to be desired. Behind her, Naruto noticed that a room was actually a classroom, the last of the students filtering out. Yeah. I was assigned as the assistant liaison officer. I'm looking for my new boss's office. The blonde woman's face turned dark for a split second before she again smirked. Why did it seem so familiar to him? I see. He already left for the day, had to take one of the students to see the Hokage after she beat up some of her classmates. Nice one, mom, I guess the rumors weren't exactly exaggerated. Thought Naruto as he once again scanned the hallway. Then I guess I best return to headquarters. It was nice to meet you. Then with a smile of his own, he flashed away, leaving the woman and the fellow teachers that had been watching the exchange in awe. Kina, who was that? The blonde woman, now known as Kina, simply shook her head. I don't know. He said that he was the new assistant liaison, and when I told him that Kamito had left for the day, he disappeared. He must be quite fast to simply disappear like that. Police HQ. Naruto walked into the main offices and walked up to Kagami's desk, thankfully finding him still at his desk. Sir, could I get the basic records of everyone who is authorized to work at the academy? My supposed teacher was absent and I'd like to get started somewhere. Well then, he is extremely strong and a good tactical thinker. Just where did Hiruzen hide him away? Kagami looked Naruto over, finding him to be quite serious. I'll have them sitting on your desk in the morning. Kamito is off tomorrow and classes will be out, it should give you plenty of time to settle in both here and at the academy. Thank you, sir. Stated Naruto. Man, if all the Uchiha were as cool as this guy, then Itachi wouldn't have had to finish them off. You have potential. I do not know where Hiruzen hid you, but I'm glad to have you on my force. Stated Kagami as he sat back and looked the blonde in the eyes. Don't make a fool out of myself or Sarutobi. Am I clear? Crystal, sir. Stated Naruto, his surprise at Kagami's drastic change in tone hidden behind a facade of indifference. Good. You are relieved for the night. I suggest the hot springs. As long as Jiraiya isn't up to his antics, you should be fine. Smiled Kagami. But then again, he really isn't a problem for you, is he? Training Ground 3. Jiraiya sat beneath a tree on the edge of the training ground, his hand scribbling across the page at high speed, intricate designs appearing as he moved. Tsunade and Orochimaru had been sparring for a while. Orochimaru had not taken their loss to the blonde ninja lightly and was trying to find a flaw in his style by fighting the next best Jujutsu user in the village, Tsunade. Jiraiya, much to the surprise of his teammates, had easily accepted the fact that they had lost, even going to the point of claiming that they never stood a chance in the first place. Tsunade had begun to worry that Jiraiya had become depressed due to the loss at the hands of Naruto and had contemplated how to fix his attitude without swaying to his perverted nature. Jiraiya, on the other hand, had actually been highly upbeat, if not very lost in thought. Namikaze is stronger than me by miles, maybe I can get some training from him, or maybe he could tell me the secrets of Sage Mode. Jiraiya. Let's go. Commanded Tsunade, getting a confused look from the white-haired ninja. I'm going to the hot springs, and you're going to make sure nothing funny happens on the men's side. Can I do something funny on the men's side? Questioned Jiraiya as he fell in step, Orochimaru nowhere in sight. If you want to die. Don't forget I nearly killed you last time. Stated Tsunade harshly before her thoughts filled her head. Though if it will get you out of this funk then maybe I'll let it slide, this time. You suck to hang around with when you're depressed. Hot springs, 20 minutes later. Naruto had been sitting in the hot springs for about 10 seconds before he heard the telltale sound of perverse giggling in the corner. Jiraiya. If you keep that up you are going to get caught. Jiraiya spun around, finding himself and Naruto alone in the male side of the hot springs. Naruto. What do you know about peeping? Naruto snorted. More than you apparently. You don't even put up a sound barrier, and that invisibility jutsu you use doesn't cover your chakra signature. Jiraiya contemplates the blonde's words and nods appreciatively. You are full of surprises. I've lived a life and gained knowledge that men twice my age would be proud of. Stated Naruto. If you see anything on that woman, it's because she wants you to, and the only reason that she would want that would be to pummel you. Jiraiya sat down into the water and asked a question that had been on his mind since he had first seen the blonde. How did you become a sage? Sarutobi-sensei showed me your file, your patrol routes and drop-off points would have kept you pretty busy. Naruto sat back, his head resting on the rocks. This is pervy sage, I can trust him right. He has always been a man of honor. I would have to reveal a very deep and dark secret to explain how I became a sage. You could say I inherited it from my teacher, though he had never completed it to my level, he knew enough to teach me. This teacher, was he human? Questioned Jiraiya, hoping to find out which contract the blonde had. Yes. He had told me that it was part of a long line of teaching. It was originally learned from the Toads, but my version could be completely different. Stated Naruto, doing his best not to lie. Jiraiya always could figure out his lies. The Toads? I knew it. Your eyes turn the same as Fukasaku-sama. Stated Jiraiya before muttering. But he said that it was impossible for me to become a sage without his guidance. It might be. No two ninja are alike, Jiraiya, and to be a sage, you must be completely at peace with yourself and with the world. That could mean something completely different for you than it did for me. Stated Naruto. Do you think that Tsunade could become a sage? Questioned Jiraiya in a faraway tone. So, you love your teammate huh? Jiraiya's eyes bugged out. Is it really that noticeable? No, but your spiritual chakra dips when you talk of her or when she is near. Stated Naruto. She is the heir of the Senju, is she not? And you are a common ninja. I can see why you think you can't have her. You are an interesting person. Stated Jiraiya absent-mindedly. But you're right. I am in love with her. You know, she likes you too. Stated Naruto, using the public speech jutsu to slightly amplify his and Jiraiya's voices, going off his talks with the tsunade of his time. It might not be clear now, but you lead the race for her heart. You may not have much of a chance, but the chance is there. And just what would I have to do to? Laughed Jiraiya. Carve her face on the Hokage monument, write her a love song. Thus give her time, give her space. When she needs help, be the first one to help her, and when she stands strong, stand beside her. Stated Naruto. She lost someone in the past that meant the world to her, I could see it in her eyes. Show her that you have no problems being there for her and that you want to be that person. Don't ask her out on dates, ask her to train, ask her to help in your studies, offer the same thing back and never pressure her to do anything but better herself. She's on the other side right now. Stated Jiraiya as he motioned to the dividing wall. Naruto nodded and whispered. She doesn't seem like the type to want to be coddled, she just needs support. She's a strong woman, physically and I assume mentally. Instead of treating her like a princess, treat her like a best friend. There was silence for a few minutes before Jiraiya got a big smile on his face and got out of the hot water. Then I should get started now. And with that, Jiraiya left the hot springs. I might not have my village back, but I can make this one mine. Sorry Dan, but this pervy sage isn't going to hurt for 20 years. It was then that memories of his 3 wives reared their heads. May, Tamari, Yujito. I'll come home, even if it takes 50 years. I just hope you wait for me. But what if I can't make it home? Academy, next day. Naruto sat behind his desk in the office at the academy. He had gone over all of the files that Kagami had supplied him, finding that all the teachers had fought in the war and that mostly they were names he had never heard. It was strange that these teachers seemed to fade out of his history, only having seen their names on the memorial stone. Then there was the big one. The woman he had met the day before, he was right when he had thought she was familiar. Hina Yamanaka, heir to the Yamanaka clan and firstborn child of Inamaru, she was Inoichi's older sister. A 16-year-old chunin that had excelled in hand-to-hand combat, was extremely intelligent and had a fire and very slight wind affinity. She had been injured early in the war during the siege of the Blood Prison when several Konoha shinobi had been captured and held there. In his time, she had died in that battle. He contemplated just how many small changes there had been up to this point in this timeline. Fuck, I could basically write this time any way I wanted. I just wish I could go home. I wonder how the village and alliance are doing without me. Naruto had often wondered on and remembered his past life. It sometimes got to the point that he would zone out almost completely, nearly hitting things or running into people. If it wasn't for the fact that he had Sage Mode to monitor his surroundings, people would probably think he was an idiot. Speaking of idiots, why are there teachers here on their day off? I get the headmaster and the janitors, but teachers? Come on. It was a few minutes later that Naruto felt a familiar signature enter his range. Speak of the devil. I can tell that wind affinity of hers if being drowned out by her fire affinity. I wonder if she has ever trained it. He grew more surprised when she didn't head towards her room or the teacher's lounge, but right toward his office. When she entered, Naruto was nearly left speechless. True, she had been very attractive in her chunin uniform, but the burnt orange dress she had on now was a knockout punch. Form-fitting and ending just below her knees, it did nothing to hide her figure, which Naruto had to admit was nearly perfect. Her hips flowed perfectly past her waist and into her thighs, her legs seemed to go on for days until they met her black sandals, her waist lead incredibly into her large bust, which stuck out like a sore thumb in her dress. Naruto had to admit, she wasn't as slim as Ino had been, but the extra pounds of muscle she had seemed fill her out in ways Inoichi's daughter could only dream about. Naruto was extremely lucky that he was experienced in hiding his emotions, but unfortunately, he was ogling a Yamanaka, and this one could read him like a book. Great, another pervert as our on-site officer. Naruto had to admit, her tone did not match her looks. Kina Yamanaka, teacher of room 114. A pleasure to meet you again. She raised an eyebrow, her hands finding her hips as she crossed further into the office. Aren't you supposed to offer me a seat, mister? Naruto in turn raised an eyebrow and motioned wildly and extravagantly to the seat across from himself. By all means Kina Haim, take your place. I, Naruto Namikaze, am at your service. Kina let out a genuine smile, though Naruto didn't know exactly why. You're a real charmer, you know that. Just because you have those adorable blue eyes, luscious blonde hair and that sexy face doesn't mean you can just stare at women. Though I do wonder how you got those scars. Doing his best to not fluster, Naruto leaned forward in his chair and rested his elbows on his desk. Then you should see me in my off-duty attire. I assure you that you will have the same reaction that I had to you and your outstanding physique. Now if I may ask, why exactly are you here? The Yamanaka was surprised to have her taunt thrown back at her, but recovered quickly and responded. I'll get to the point. Kamito isn't the best on-site officer and I'm looking out for one of my students. She tends to get in a fair bit of trouble. Kushina, you mean? I'm well aware of her. You didn't need to come here to warn me about her. I already know all I need to know. Stated Naruto dismissively, assuming that Kina was another teacher that had been run into the ground by an Uzumaki. Thank you for coming in, but if that's all you may leave, I'm sure you are a busy Kunoichi. Kina was stunned at his dismissal. Oh, I get it. You have it in for the poor girl too. You haven't even been here a full day and you already think just like Kamito does. All you officers are the same, just because that poor girl is an Uzumaki you think you can treat her different. And I thought this guy was different. At this point Kina was nearly hovering over the desk, her face less than a foot from the unmoving Naruto. Her features became more enraged by his lack of response. Say something, damn it. You're not even in Uchiha, why do you have it out for her? Naruto stood up slowly, his face staying parallel with hers as he began to tower over her, easily standing 6 inches taller than her. My mother was in Uzumaki. Kushina-chan reminds me of the memories I have of her. Her eyes widened in horror. He wasn't lying when he had said that, she had been all wrong, he wasn't there to harass her, he was there to protect her. Oh shit. Kina, how did you mess this one up? Don't worry about your student, I'll look after her when I can. Stated Naruto in a soft chiding voice. Thank you for looking out for her. You may leave now. Kina just dumbly nodded and walked out of the room. Naruto felt her emotions fluctuate wildly all the way out of the building. I probably could have handled that one better. Then a smile crossed his face. She's a lot like Mei, Temari, and Yujito. It's going to be hell without them. Hopefully it won't be too much longer. 2 days later, police headquarters. Police work is boring. Summed up Naruto as he looked through his reports from his last 2 days. 2 public intoxications, a theft of panties, which I'm 99% sure was Jiraiya, thank God he's leaving in 10 days, and my favorite one by far, the grand opening of Ichiraku's ramen was delayed when a merchant claimed a copyright on ramen. Yeah, right. Naruto was pulled from his musings when Kamito came rushing into the main offices and shouted to Naruto. Come on kid, no time to explain, I'm going to need your help on this one. Academy, 5 seconds later, Naruto arrived to see none other than Kushina, pinning an older Uchiha to the wall and smashing her face repeatedly with her fist. Don't you ever. Crack down, talk my family. Crack again. Crack. Before anyone could see it, Naruto was holding Kushina by the shoulders and Kamito was checking on the downed Uchiha. Kushina wheeled around, slamming a fist into Naruto's face, sending his head sideways. The gathering crowd grew silent as they realized that Kushina had just attacked a chunin member of the police force. Damn, that's one hell of a punch, kid. Laughed Naruto as he patted Kushina on the shoulder and looked to the nearest kid, easily shaking off the effects of a punch that felt like it came from a chunin. You, Akamichi, what happened here? The Akamichi, which had turned out to be a young Chauza, responded. We were eating lunch when Kushina and Makoto started fighting. Makoto said that it was good that all the Uzumaki were dead because they were inferior. She said that the Uzumaki were just savages and that they disgraced the village, and Kushina snapped. Naruto nodded and held Kushina closer to himself. I see. And just what does Makoto have to say for herself? What do you mean? That little shit just attacked a member of the Uchiha clan. Stated Kamito, an irrational rage entering his voice. Insulting and aggravating a fellow student is just as bad as beating another student. Add to the fact that Makoto insulted a protected clan of Konoha and I'd say it evens out just fine. Stated Naruto heatedly. There is nothing to make a case out of. The standard punishments will be fine. Many students and all teachers in the area were stunned that an officer would publicly stand against an Uchiha. You're new kid, so I'll say it nicely before I beat it into you. That brat you're holding is a menace, she gets in more fights than the next 3 kids combined. Stated Kamito. Naruto looked down at the young Kushina, who now had her head down in shame. And she's one of those scum Uzumaki, she's a little cunt. Kamito found himself embedded in the wall where Makoto had just been pummeled. Code 7, subsection G. An officer will never insult or speak derogatorily of a civilian. Code 20, subsection A. Any officer found to be emotionally or racially biased will be removed from case or assignment. Several Anbu surrounded Naruto, though none of them moved. Their captain, Rooster, along with all the captains, had been informed that Naruto was to be respected, and having seen the way that Kamito was acting, he completely agreed. Falcon, bring Kamito Uchiha to Kagami and explain the situation. Lizard, bring Makoto Uchiha to the hospital. Naruto let go of Kamito and moved back to Kushina, waiting for the Anbu to address him. Namikaze, I expect a full report on both what happened with Uzumaki and with what happened with your fellow officer to be written up and turned into Kagami. Stated Rooster. Naruto nodded and the Anbu disappeared, most likely to report back to the Hokage. Alright students, report back to your classes. stated Naruto with authority. As the rest of the students moved back to their classes, Kushina simply stared up at him with tear on her eyes, awaiting her punishment. Naruto smiled down at her and began leading her inside. Come on, we have a report to fill out. Once they were back in the office, Naruto closed the door and picked up a few forms. He walked around the desk and sat down, placing the forms in front of Kushina on the desk. Now Kushina. My name is Naruto Namikaze. Could you tell me why you are involved in so many fights? Kushina's head dropped again. They make fun of me because my clan and my village are gone. Some make fun of me for my hair or that I want to become Hokage. But that's no reason to fight them, Kushina. You just laugh at people like that. They don't matter. Don't let them bother you. Do you have any friends? Asked Naruto, finding himself using the voice he had used with Rimi when she was younger. Yae, Chaozu and Shikaku are nice to me, but Inoichi is always really distant. Though Makoto was my friend until today. Stated Kushina as she started to sniffle. Kushina, why aren't you friends with any of the Senju? Questioned Naruto, though he was actually rather curious about this. They are all assholes, none of them want to play with me because Lady Mito is taking care of me until well, they call me a grandma's girl, and they won't play with me either. Kushina said sadly. So she knows that she will become a Jinchuriki. Thought Naruto sadly. Is there something else in your life that is making you angry? Something that maybe you can't control? You seem to have a lot of pent-up anger. Kushina's eyes shot up to meet his, the fear in her eyes making Naruto flinch. No, nothing like that. You're worried that whatever it is will change what people think of you for the worse. Stated Naruto, talking from experience. Kushina's eyes started to swell up. No, really, it's nothing. Having the Kyuubi sealed in you isn't nothing, Kushina. Stated Naruto. Kushina froze as she stared at the man before her. Don't worry, I know because I'm an Uzumaki too. My mom was a full-blooded Uzumaki, just like you. My dad was a farmer that had met my mother when they were both in Konoha. You're an Uzumaki too? Questioned Kushina as she looked at Naruto hopefully. Naruto smiled and raised his right sleeve, revealing the Uzumaki spiral that was actually a chakra seal on top of his right forearm. Yep. My mother taught me about seals when I was young. After she died I became a ninja for the leaf so I could stay close to my father. Unfortunately, he passed away before you were even born. Are there more? Are there more Uzumaki left? Are there more like me and Mito-sama? Questioned Kushina happily. Naruto smiled back. How fucked up is it that I'm acting like an older brother for the girl who becomes my mother? There are a few left that are true Uzumaki, but there are many left that are part Uzumaki, like me. Like Tsunade, Mito's granddaughter. Kushina smiled big before her frown returned. Does that mean that I still have to have the Kyuubi sealed inside me? Unfortunately, yes. You have special chakra that is vital to containing the Kyuubi. Stated Naruto sadly. But I'll make you a promise, okay? What? Asked a turmoiled Kushina. I'll always be your friend, Kushina. I might have to be hard on you sometimes, and one day I might no longer be here with you, but no matter what, even after the big dumb fox is sealed in you, I'll be your friend. Stated Naruto, who was quickly tackled by a sobbing Kushina. She was muttering something into his chunin vest. She kept crying, thanking him and holding him tightly, until she ran out of energy and fell asleep on his shoulder. What have I gotten myself into? Dad isn't even here yet. Naruto sat Kushina down on the small bench in the corner of the office and summoned 2 shadow clones to begin filling out reports. I guess me and mom were a lot more alike than I thought, tough on the outside, teddy bears on the inside. It took about 5 minutes to fill the reports out while Naruto wrote up a sign to post on the door. The clones finished up the reports and dispersed. Naruto put the sign on the outside of the door, picked up the files and lifted Kushina before disappearing in a flash of gold. It was an hour or so later when a concerned teacher approached the office and saw that it was empty. 30 minutes later, police headquarters. Naruto had just given his reports to Kagami and was now sitting across from the man. Several officers surrounding the table to serve as witness. Let me get this straight, kid, you responded to a fight at the school, one student beat another nearly unconscious, you broke it up with help from Kamito, who then tried to, as you say, shift all the blame onto the perpetrator of the fight. At that point, Kamito threatened you, spoke derogatorily about a civilian, and nearly called a 7-year-old girl the C-word. Questioned Kagami, to which Naruto simply nodded. What the hell is wrong with him? Sir, how do we know Namikaze isn't lying? Accused Yugaku. Kamito has been on the force for 6 years, Namikaze hasn't even been here 6 days. There are a dozen eyewitness accounts that back up his explanation of the events perfectly. Stated Kagami, silencing the surrounding Uchiha and drawing a nod from Fugaku. What did you do with the girls? Kushina is suspended for 2 days, including this one, for assaulting a student. It will go on her record. Makoto, once she is healed, will spend 1 week's worth of lunch detentions, cleaning blackboards as punishment for starting a fight and demeaning a protected clan with intent to defame. It is up to Hokage-sama if it will go on her record. stated Naruto, causing the Uchiha in the room to erupt in anger. "Silence," demanded Kagami as he stood up from his chair. "The crimes that Mikoto committed are far worse than that of which the Uzumaki committed. She could be kicked from the program entirely due to her arrogance. You should be lucky that Namikaze is letting her off this easily." "I agree," stated Fugaku, shocking the crowd. "This is the third time an Uchiha has acted poorly at the academy in the last 2 months. They get away with it because Kamito allows it. If this continues, the Uchiha clan as a whole will develop a negative rapport with the younger generations. That will no longer happen," stated Kagami as he returned to his seat. "Kamito has been placed on probation for his transgressions against a civilian child. He is currently under review. Naruto, clean out your desk. You are now the full-time on-site officer for the academy and the surround areas." At night, Naruto's apartment. Naruto bolted up in his bed as he remembered something that Inoki had said. They would have been 35 when they cast it. It is an old Uzumaki Fuinjutsu that takes away the life lived by the caster and sends the target back and away. Thought Naruto as he recited Inoki's words in his head. But Kitsuchi was 43. He couldn't have been the one to send me back. But that doesn't make sense, I only went back 35 years and that Tsuchikage doesn't have a son in this timeline. Naruto pondered long and hard about the conundrum. Maybe. Naruto had struggled to find any answers to his problem within the village. The Uzumaki shrine had some interesting information on time manipulation seals, but it was of a different sort than what he was looking for. He had also had a very brief talk with Mito one day after Kushina had asked that he take her home, but the second he mentioned his great-grandfather by name, she reacted strangely and asked that he come back another time. On the other hand, it had been almost a month since Naruto had taken over as the academy's on-site officer and just about everyone in the school supported him. The teachers all had a great amount of respect for his hard-working attitude and his fairness to all students. The fact he had defended a student against a ninja had earned brownie points. The headmaster loved him because he took over all disciplinary actions for students, leaving the headmaster to just look after the staff, and most of all, the children adored him. Naruto had taken to leaving the office as much as possible and walking the hallways or playing ninja with the students during breaks. Overall, the feel of the academy had tightened up and the morale had increased as well. "I need to find time to get to Yuzu and search for some answers. Maybe Jiraiya is waiting for my response. The seal might have a key on both sides." The day was a Wednesday and Naruto sat in his office reading the weekly newspaper. He found it interesting that the village would put out news like this, but he found it pretty useful for keeping an eye on the outside world as long as you didn't see the words as gospel. The cover story was reporting that Hanzo had been driven back on the fronts and that 3 ninja had forced the warlord's retreat. He had termed them the Sannin as he signaled the retreat. That made Naruto smile. If this timeline panned out, Orochimaru and Tsunade would be back in the village in a few weeks and Jiraiya would be training the founding members of Akatsuki. He would have to keep an eye on that one if he was here for it. The knock at his door brought Naruto out of his musings. "You can come in, Ms. Yamanaka." "And just how did you know it was me?" she asked as she walked in, her face inquisitive. "The same way I know everything that goes on this property," stated Naruto serious before a smirk crossed his face. "I magic." Hina rolled her eyes and took a seat. "How long have you been here?" "Classes don't start for another hour. I am here when I need to be," he stated cryptically. "How can I help you? Last time we talked you were shouting at me." The busty Yamanaka blushed at that. "Let's forget that happened. I'm here to inform you that yesterday a young man that bears striking resemblance to you was placed in my classroom. And he shares your last name." "Yes, Minato," stated Naruto as he pulled a folder out of seemingly nowhere and laid it on the table. 7 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes. He was found at the orphanage near Glassport last week. His mother died at sea a month ago. "What about his father?" she asked suspiciously. "You're looking at him," Naruto said with a perfectly straight face. "Okay, that was over the top. But I don't think hearing that he's my father would have gone any better." "You're 17. You had a child when you were 9?" questioned Kina with a look of astonishment. "Is he really your son?" "No, I was pulling your leg. His father was a local shinobi who lost his life in a village raid 2 years ago. Namikaze is a common name in the lower country," stated Naruto, his lips curled into a devious smile. "You really think that if I had a son he would have been in an orphanage? You jackass. You scared me half to death with that," stated Kina as she glared at him. "What kind of asshole does that? I thought you might actually be taken for a second." Naruto watched her eyes go wide as she admitted that before her face flushed and her emotions spiked. "Oh shit, did I just admit that I'm interested in him? Sorry to scare you, I just thought that would be a fun joke," stated Naruto empathically. "No, Minato isn't my son. If anything he might be a distant cousin. I didn't mean it like that, I just thought, look, whatever," stated Kina as she sat forward in her chair. "Kushina seems to have taken an interest in him and not a good one. She seems rather aggressive toward him. Also, some students have been comparing him to you. Well, how about I visit your class at some point today and we can clear it up? Would that make it up to you? Asked Naruto with a kind smile. Not like I don't know how to be a father. Shisui and Izumi turned out just fine kinda. Sure, how's after lunch sound? Half hour later, Hokage Tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi was a complicated man. While his personality was that of a grandfather or an old friend, his political views could vary from the peace-loving nature of his first sensei, Hashirama, to the pragmatic and sometimes downright brutal nature of his second sensei, Tobirama. Some say that this is what caused him to be such a pronounced and powerful leader. He truly did love every ninja and every citizen in his village, but he was quite capable of squashing an enemy with every ounce of Konoha might if he had to. Most had given up on trying to figure the old man out. Some had rumored that the only people in the village that truly knew him were his wife and his students. They were mostly correct. There was another man that knew Sarutobi and could read him like a book. Naruto strolled into his office, the secretary too shocked that someone had the gall to simply walk in to even think of stopping him. Naruto had begun to develop a rapport with his Hiruzen, just as he had with the last, though he had to admit, the want to call him Jiji had been a heavy cross to bear. Naruto. I assume you wish to request something. Are you ready to start searching? Questioned Hiruzen, his voice even and his eyes focused on the young man across from him. Should you not be watching the school? Hokage-sama. I would like for you to accompany me to the Senju compound. I have not found anything of note in the Konoha archives and I would like to approach Lady Mito herself on the subject. Stated Naruto carefully. I have left a clone at the school and I can get there in an instant if needed. Sarutobi did not look the least bit surprised. He had agreed to let Naruto attempt to get home and had agreed that he would not hamper him as long as he trained his top ninja when he was available. I do suppose it is time I visit Lady Mito again. Is there anything in particular you would like to ask of her? Yes, I'd like to ask her about her uncle, or more importantly, my great-grandfather. Senju compound. Naruto had been to this compound a few times in this world, but he still couldn't get over the beauty and tranquility of the landscape. The compound itself was similar to the Hyuga. The main family had their own, medium-sized house, while the rest had their own, much larger house. Mito, of course, lived in the main house. Naruto had only seen it once before he was asked to leave by Mito. Something he had asked had stirred her greatly. Sarutobi, however, waltzed right through the clan grounds and to the main house. He had walked this trail more times than he cared to remember and quite frankly was not exactly ready to be a part of the conversation that he knew was going to take place. Mito never was good at bringing up the past. Naruto let Hiruzen knock, even the great Naruto Namikaze was deathly afraid of the woman in the building. Mito answered the door, a smile on her aging face as she focused in on Hiruzen. She was about to greet him when she saw the young man beside him. Oh, just what did Kushina do now that would require the both of you to visit me? Usually it's just Namikaze-san. Kushina hasn't done anything to warrant this visit, Lady Mito. Stated Hiruzen as he paused and looked at Naruto. Has she? Well, yesterday she stabbed someone with a drink straw, but his parents didn't press charges because he had been hitting on her. Stated Naruto seriously. I really have to talk with the headmaster about the upperclassmen, that just isn't right. So this isn't about Kushina. Stated Mito with an odd look in her eye. What is it that you want? Hiruzen looked into Mito's eyes and asked a question. Do you have any knowledge on a seal called displacement of time? Mito's eyes went wide, her gaze searching Sarutobi before her eyes narrowed and settled on Naruto. So that is what you asked about my uncle. How do you know about that jutsu? It's forbidden, even from the main family. Because I saw it. I saw the tipped flares on the kanji, and I know it was his seal. Trust me, I know my great-grandfather's style. Stated Naruto, well aware that he had essentially given away who he was to Mito. Her face adopted a look of confusion before it morphed into admonishment and understanding. Get in the house. It wasn't a minute later that Mito was hovering around Naruto, inspecting the boy and admiring the seals on his arms. Naruto didn't remember when he had lost his flak jacket or his overshirt. Tamaki only had one child, Jin. Jin only had one child, little Kushina. Stated Mito as she unlocked the Yuzu symbol on his right forearm and inspected it. This is exemplary work, on par with my own. Chakra storage, an interesting concept. Jin had been working on something like this before the fall. You're Kushina's child. That much is obvious. Whose life did you sacrifice to come to this world? Questioned Mito intensely. Naruto looked back at her, his eyes questioning. Ma'am, I didn't activate that seal. Or draw it. The Tsuchikage of my time activated it. By the time I had studied it and found out it was my great-grandfather's design, I was waking up in this world. Mito gained a shocked look before she locked eyes with the blonde. Then there is a chance for you. What? I'm not an expert on that jutsu, it was classified as forbidden the day it was tested, but I do know that it can be reversed. Stated Mito. Uncle had built in a safety system, a reset. I don't know how it works, but if the necessary steps are made in both worlds, then you can return to your world. Do you have his notes or know where they are? Questioned Naruto reverently. I do not have them. But if they still exist, they would be in the catacombs beneath Tamaki's shrine in the Great Room. Stated Mito. He spent a great amount of time down there, it is where all the leaders test their jutsu. You mean the cavern beneath the fountain? When I was there before I didn't find anything like that. Stated Naruto questioningly. You have been in the Great Room? Asked Mito with astonishment. How? The entrance has been blocked since the death of Tamaki, only the era the leader may enter. I got in fine last time. Stated Naruto plainly. Though mom died the day I was born, so I guess I was the next in line. There is a 2-day break from the academy at the end of the week. If you wish to go inspect the ruins for a few days, that is acceptable, but my team is set to return in 10 days, I need you here to assist in their training. Stated Saratobi as he re-entered the room, a large bowl of cereal in his hand as he ate it lazily. Tsunade and Jiraiya could both use some training while I beat more lessons into Orochimaru. That stubborn boy will just never learn. Hiruzen, when did you get that bowl? Questioned Mito. You seemed rather involved in your conversation. I decided to get a bite to eat. Stated the Hokage before he put the bowl to his lips and drank the remaining contents. I best be off, have a nice day Lady Mito, I shall send over your granddaughter when she arrives. Mito ignored the Hokage, already used to his lackadaisical antics. While you are there, if you could find an artifact for me, I'll tell you what happened to the tailed beast that once resided in you. It was Naruto's turn to be stunned. Did he fuse with the Kurama in you? Is that how you know? Kurama? No, the beast in me is the Kyuubi. Stated Mito. That seal on your abdomen. It has no purpose but to hold a vast amount of chakra. You being in Uzumaki leads me to believe that either you held the Kyuubi or that the village obtained another beast. Naruto looked down, his face blank as he contemplated something. When it comes time for Kushina to have Kyuubi sealed in her, if I'm not here tell her I'm proud of her. Mito didn't have a chance to respond before Naruto disappeared in a flash of gold. Mito, for her part, was rather impressed. Haration. So the rumors are true, but who managed to snag Tobirama? Afternoon, Academy. Naruto made his way back into the academy, his mind still racing as he contemplated Mito's words. I need to figure out an escape plan. The ninja will understand a reassignment out of the village, but Kushina won't. That thought was a real downer. Mito isn't going to live forever. Minato better become friends with her soon, she's going to need someone. As Naruto walked into the entrance of the academy, he felt 12 chakra signatures on either side of the upcoming hallway charge water chakra to standard genin level. The upper class alright you little shits, payback time. Naruto strolled into the hallway and watched as the students all launched their water whips at Naruto, the jutsu seemingly moving in slow motion as Naruto smirked, he simply continued to walk forward and let the weak jutsus hit him. A cheer came from the students as their jutsus landed, but it ended as soon as the water soaked the hallway, and Naruto, aside from being soaked, was still grinning like a madman. Lightning release. Surge. A weak burst of lightning left Naruto's feet and traveled outward, shocking all the students, throwing them off of the walls and lockers. Now tell me, what are the 3 things that caused this plan to backfire? Questioned Naruto as the students all got up. When they all looked at them in confusion, Naruto just sighed and continued speaking. 1. You set a good ambush, but you didn't check the surroundings. There is nothing to absorb the water, meaning a skilled enemy could use it against you. 2. You overestimated the effectiveness of the ambush. You should have fled the second the water hit me, not dance around like a bunch of idiots. 3. You underestimated your target. I let that water hit me to teach you a lesson. If I was an enemy of my strength, I'd have killed you all before you even got the water whips off, it was too slow. After a few seconds of silence, the boy farther away from Naruto looked up. Sorry Mr. Namikaze. We won't let it happen again. Naruto simply smiled. It's fine, because it's time for reason number 4. Never try to prank the king. Naruto flashed away, just as the bell rang. Boys. Why is there water all over the floor? Academy room 114. Alright class, everyone find your seats. I have a special surprise for all of you. Stated Kina as she waited for the class to sit down. Today we had a pop quiz planned, but instead, Mr. Namikaze will be joining us for an alternative lesson. A joyous cry erupted from the students, making Kina smile. How did he get so good with kids? They all seemed to love him. Naruto walked in just on time, his chunin jacket and long sleeve over shirt missing, and his sleeveless undershirt and pants drenched as he moved to stand next to the teacher. Sorry, someone taught an entire upper class the water whip and they pranked me with it. How do you want to do this? Bent over the desk with you behind me. Thought Kina the second she saw Naruto's frame through his tight wet shirt. I guess he wasn't kidding, that uniform hides his body. Yummy. I figured the students could ask you any questions they might have, get to know someone who isn't a teacher or a parent. Alright. started Naruto as he swept his hair back and tied his forehead protector to keep the wet hair out of his eyes, giving the class and Kina a great view of the tattoo-like seals on his arms. Who would like to ask the first question? Just about every hand in the class went up. Alright then. How about you, Tomi? A young girl in the front row stood up. Mr. Namikaze, why do you have tattoos all over your arms? These are actually seals. Each one has a different purpose. They can do a lot of stuff. The 3 on my left shoulder are chakra storage seals, the ones on my forearms hold my swords, the one on the back of my right hand is kinda like a storage scroll, and the one on my left hand is when students misbehave. Laughed Naruto evilly while scanning the crowd. What about the spiral one? On your right arm? What does that one do? That, boys and girls, is the Uzumaki clan crest. The symbol of the whirling tides, it was also their village emblem. Stated Naruto with pride. Some students looked at Kushina, who had a similar smile on her face. This tattoo is to remember those of my clan that lost their lives defending Konoha when their village was destroyed. People like my mother and Kushina-chan's family. You're in Uzumaki. But I thought your last name was Namikaze. It is. My mother was in Uzumaki, but my father was a farmer from the southern part of the country. Stated Naruto. Are you the new kid's dad? Naruto's sweat dropped. No. Minato, stand up please. The boy looked curious, but stood up anyway. Minato is from the southern fishing village of Glassport. It is possible that we are related, but I'm not his father. I'd have been your age when I had him. You can sit down now, Minato. Are you dating anyone? Asked a girl near the back, getting a giggle from the crowd. Naruto smiled and shook his head. No, I'm afraid I don't date. Next question. Naruto missed the look that crossed Kina's face. What element do you have? Asked Chaoza, getting some nods of interest from the students. My main element is wind, but I can use all 5. Stated Naruto happily, before a thought occurred. Hang on a second. Naruto flipped through 3 hand seals and all the water that had been drenching his clothes formed into a small ball before he sent it out the window, letting it splash on a ninja unfortunate enough to be walking outside the academy, drawing a shout from the victim. There was a giggle from the students before a very wet ninja appeared in the window, a chunin Hyuga. Which one of you little own Namikaze-san? It obviously wasn't from this room. Hyuga-san, I hear that Uchiha-san's class just learned the water whip. I assume you have just encountered it. Stated Naruto with a completely straight face, all the students frozen in shock. I will take it up with him when I go visit him next period, I believe I already know who is responsible. Thank you Namikaze-san, I shall go change into some dry clothes. Stated the Hyuga before he jumped from the window and fled to the Hyuga compound. It wasn't much longer that the class started cracking up, none of them having ever seen something like that before. Kina, after she managed to control herself, quieted the students. Now that Namikaze-san here has your attention, let's continue. Can you teach me how to do that water thing? I'm sorry, but I'm not your teacher. You will cover the elements and some jutsu in your last year at the academy. Stated Naruto, getting some grumbles. But, consider this your lesson for the day. In my youth, I built up my stealth, speed, planning and reflexes by pulling pranks and escaping afterwards. Now just to be clear, you will be punished if you get caught, so don't get caught. Can I prank my sister? Questioned Inoichi, gaining a smirk from Naruto and a glare from Kina. I don't advise you prank her. She seems like the type that would retaliate quickly and with vengeance. Smirked Naruto as the class snickered at their teacher's expense. Oh, real funny Namikaze. You won't be laughing when I have you moaning my where the hell did that come from? Thought Kina before she snapped out of it and spoke up. Alright class, Mr. Namikaze is a busy man, so only a few more questions before we get back to our lessons. Minato looked at Naruto and asked a question that had been on his mind since he first saw the man. Sir, how did you get those scars on your cheeks? Naruto looked out the window, gathering his thoughts. He didn't like lying to children. Before I was back in the village, when I was early on in my career, I had a great battle with a monster, one of the Biju. We lost countless men, including my mother. One of the ninja had been foolish, he broke rank and went to fight the beast himself. The line fell apart and I was forced to cover a gap that I couldn't handle. I was hit by a blast of the beast's chakra and thrown from the battlefield. When I woke up I had these scars. Some have told me that I was marked by the beast because it respected me as a warrior, others have said that they are a form of chakra burns. I think of them as a reminder to never abandon my comrades. The room was silent for a moment before Kushina raised her hand. Naruto Nai-san. What does it mean to be a ninja? My sensei once told me that when we are at our lowest point, we are open to our greatest challenges. Being a ninja isn't about having the coolest jutsu or having fun. Shinobi and Kunoichi fight each day of their life to protect the people they love and the village they fight for. You live a life that progressively gets harder until you die or you retire. Your entire career is going to drag you through the worst situations imaginable, beat you down, chew you up and spit you out. But you do it because it keeps your family safe, it allows the younger generation to enjoy the peace of a secure village, while you give your life to make sure that they can live theirs. Most ninja balance it out with their loved ones, with hobbies or other coping habits. This isn't a profession that you go into because you want to travel or because you like a boy or girl and want to impress them. This is a profession for those who are willing to give their lives to protect their comrades, someone who can deal with doing horrible things to keep their family and loved ones safe. Stated Naruto. To take a kunai for the person next to you. To live in the dark so that someone may bask in the light. That is what it means to be a true shinobi. The students were all silent, most contemplating their reasons for becoming a shinobi, some contemplating if it was worth it, and two contemplating just what Naruto's life had been like. Hina stared at the man standing before her, not being able to get a read on him. Just who are you? You speak like a wise old man, act like a kid and have so much pain in your eyes. Why were you in a fight with a Biju? Why have you cut yourself off from everyone except your clansmen? Naruto stood before the fountain in the center of the ruined Yuzu, his mind wandering as he looked into the water. I only have 2 days to search the village for answers. I already swept the archives, the leader's office and the Anbu complex. Naruto had somewhat surprised Sarutobi when he used the 2-day school break to request 3 days off to search Yuzu. Hiruzen had told him point blank that they already had searched the village and laid the bodies to rest, but allowed him to go anyway. He was a man of his word, after all, and Naruto had begun to secretly tutor the ninja that Sarutobi had sent. It helped that he had been there when Mito had backed his claim of the tomb under the fountain. Naruto dove into the water and swam down, bumping twice into hard rock, before he found the hidden passage and landed hard on the cavern floor. This was a lot easier the first time. He entered the main room of the cavern, finding it the same as in his time. Kushina's father had been entombed, he wondered how they got him down here during the battle. Putting those thoughts aside, Naruto went to the scroll at the foot of his great-grandfather's grave and began searching through it. It was an hour later that he reached the end, and with a defeated sigh he rolled it back up. Mito said it was under the tomb, but if the resting place hadn't been finalized, thought Naruto as he got up and placed the scroll back at the foot of the coffin. Under his shrine. But it's not a shrine, it's a coffin. Could he have had another room? Naruto looked around, this world's great room seemed to be identical to his, but he had searched that room high and low and had never found another room, or even a door. Naruto sighed and walked over to the wall, leaning against it. The entrance has been blocked since the death of Tamaki. Thought Naruto, reciting the words of Mito as he looked at the coffin, his eyes growing wider. No, could it? Naruto moved to the side of his great-grandfather's coffin, gently placing his palm on the lid. Was it sealed after you died, because you're blocking it? Feeling his stomach flip-flop, Naruto slowly opened the lid of the coffin, only to find it empty. Oh hell. Thought Naruto aloud as he lifted the lid all the way open, finding that the bedding had been shifted, as if his ancestor had gotten out of the casket. Naruto quickly backed up, irrational fear that Tamaki had come back as a zombie nearly paralyzingly him. Wait, Grandpa Jin had somehow trapped his spirit in the village in my world. Naruto again approached the casket, this time he looked closer. The bedding was not nailed down, like it traditionally was. Instead it was loose from the bottom. He lifted it, finding a plain wood bottom with a large seal spanning the planks. The blood seal? Questioned Naruto as he inspected the seal, biting his thumb and wiping his blood across the portion of the seal. The seal reacted quickly, a bright light emerging as the middle 3 planks disappeared, revealing a tunnel that seemed to go down forever. Damn it, Grandpa. Now I have to make my tomb cooler than yours. Academy. Hina Yamanaka was a strange person. Her father was an interrogation expert and she followed in his footsteps in the field, but she had never become an interrogator. She had become a hand-to-hand combat specialist, something that was far from normal in her clan. Though the oddities didn't stop there. She had been injured in battle, a thin scar across her abdomen that hampered her ninja progress while it fully healed. She had decided that she would become a teacher while she recovered, but fell in love with the profession, and even after getting the all clear for combat, she remained a teacher. She was said to know exactly what she wanted in life, and that she had the looks, skill and intelligence to get it. That was until Naruto Namikaze came along. He was too complex for her to read, too secretive to give up any valuable information, and he had a 1-page file in the records department which consisted of his name, birth date, blood type and physical attributes. No mention of record history or family background. It wouldn't bother her that badly if he wasn't so goddamn attractive. Seriously, the models in the capital look like golems compared to him. He could have any woman he wanted in a heartbeat. That was the other thing that frustrated her. He had been in the village for over a month, and other than being nice, which she had concluded was just his personality, he seemed to have no interest at all in the women of the village. Hell, the only one she had even heard about getting more than a friendly amount of attention was Kushina. And everyone in the school could tell that the Namikaze man looked after Kushina like a brother or a father. I don't date. Her face turned sour as she replayed his words in her mind. Did something happen in his past? Or maybe he is already in a relationship. The revelation hit her like a punch from an Akamichi. That's how he is so good with kids. Is he really a father? Is that where he disappears to every night and on days off? The Wagakure. Inoki looked over the reports from the Leaf and he didn't know if he should smile or kill someone. His spy on the inside had not been able to glean much on the time traveler, but it seemed that he had become a police officer assigned to the academy. Why wasn't Hiruzen using the young man on the front lines? Sure, his students, the now legendary Sannin, had handed Hanzo his ass and now AIM was dropping out of the war, but Kiri was still dangerous and Suna wasn't aligned with anyone and it meant something that Hiruzen had kept him cooped up in the village. Just what are you doing, Hiruzen? Could you possibly be preparing for something? Inoki didn't like the idea of that. Iwa had timed their retreat from the war perfectly, they gave no ground and no one dare invade them because they hadn't lost much in the process. Much like Kumo, Iwa was ready for another round, but Konoha just had gained a ninja with untold power. 2 Kage in 1 village, plus the Haddock, and now these Sannin. I believe I best speak to the elders for peace talks. Konoha too strong to attack now. Kumo, you called for me, father. The third Raikage looked up from his reports to see his 12-year-old son standing in the entrance to his office. It swelled his chest with pride to see that his son was a chunin at such a young age. He wasn't far from becoming a jonin either, but decided long ago that he wouldn't let Abe become a jonin until the war was over. We received a report from Konoha. Your mission to capture the last Uzumaki will have to wait. Why? Have our spies been found out? Questioned A as he sat before his father. Fortunately, no. Though a new ninja has been spotted working at the academy as a security officer of sorts. The censor states that his chakra levels fluctuate anywhere between high Kage and close to the Hachibi. The third watched his son's eyes grow wide. Obviously we cannot count this claim as true without further proof, but I can't send a team into that village with a potential war machine within the walls. So until we find out exactly who or what it is, we will have to postpone any operations on Konoha. Stated A with understanding. Perhaps we could use Kiri as a cover. If the reports are true, then Kiri and Konoha are the only two left in the war. Kiri has already lost much of their forces, and Jinjetsu was severely wounded when he killed Mew. Stated the Raikage. The most we could use them for is to buffer an invasion. Unknown location. Danzo Shimura was not an unintelligent man. He had excelled his entire life, failing at nothing he had put his mind to. He built Root from the ground up, fighting many of Konoha's darkest battles, before the enemy even saw the light of day. He had the most comprehensive spy network the ninja world had ever known, with top operatives in each and every major village. That is why he was concerned now. Roughly a month ago, Naruto Namikaze had entered the village as a hostile force that had effortlessly defeated Saratobi's star pupil. 2 days later, the young man had been appointed to the police force, and a short time after that he became the academy liaison. He was exceptional, but he was also a ghost. The man had appeared in Iowa a bit more than a month ago, but he was non-existent before that. His operatives had checked his backstory, each event that was spoken about had happened, even if it was slightly off, and there had been details in his claims that were top secret, even he had not known about them before digging. Only the Hokage had the clearance to read those files. But there was no report of him at any of them. He was a ghost in the very sense of the word. That meant one of two things, that the boy had covered his tracks perfectly, or that Saratobi had hidden the boy away and they fabricated his history. If Saratobi had that amount of trust in the man, then he was special, and Danzo took a particular interest in special shinobi. Danzo still had next to zero information on the Namikaze, but that was about to change. Yamanaka. Report. Hokage's office. Saratobi had seen several horrifying sights in his life. The mutilation he committed in the first war, the widows of ninja he had sent to death, his son's birth, his sensei bending his mother over. Thankfully it was after his father had died, but still. Actually, that wasn't as bad as seeing Bawako's mother naked. Tsunade watched a million emotions run across her sensei's face. She had seen him like this before, mostly when he was remembering the first war. Sensei, just what did you see that would scar you like this? And the wrinkles, it was like she was made of chakra paper and had a village's worth lightning chakra pass through her. What a terrible sight she was, thought Saratobi as he shook his head violently, trying to get rid of the horrifying image. Orochimaru, Tsunade, I see that your report was not an attempt to pull my leg. Orochimaru recovered quickly, having prepared for it after his foolish teammate had left out on his own. Correct, Sensei, Jiraiya said he would stay behind to train some orphan children. He said we could use him as a frontline in case AIM repeats its attempt at invading the other lands. We can't have that. The war is all but over in AIM, we must focus on keeping Suna out of the war and finishing off Kiri. Stated Saratobi, his mind drifting to what Naruto had said before he left. If Jiraiya doesn't come back with the others, we need to go get him and bring the children back as well. Want us to go get him? There is no telling where he will be. stated Tsunade, her sadness that he had left her masked by her anger at his apparently stupid behavior. No, not yet. I have sent Naruto on an S-rank mission. Should he return, he will go with Tsunade as an escort. I need you in the village Orochimaru. Stated Sarutobi. If he creamed us in Tsukumo, what could be dangerous enough that he might not come back alive? Questioned Tsunade. I'm afraid that is truly top secret. If he returns, it may become declassified. Yamanaka Flower Shop. Addie, can I ask you some questions? Asked Kina as she walked into the small flower shop, her father behind the counter with a gardener's apron on. She had always found it funny that her father, the feared mind walker of Konoha, had adopted gardening as his hobby. I can't answer much about the Namikaze boy. Most that I know is confidential. Stated Inamaru as he looked up from a bill he had received payment for. What questions do you have that you couldn't gather yourself? Amdid to add, how do you always know what I'm thinking about? Questioned Kina as she moved to tend to some sun orchids. It's my job as a father to know what you are thinking. Now, he removed the gloves he had on and moved to the back shelves of the store. You wonder why he is so closed off. All I can tell you is that he has recently undergone an extreme shift in his life just before he returned to the village. Was it a negative shift? Other than losing his teammates? Questioned Kina, ignoring the fact that her father was reading her like a book the man had always been able to. That would depend. He has little control over a multitude of factors in his life, but at the same time he has the resources to create his own path. Stated the elder Yamanaka. If I were to guess, his past has a much stronger pull than any future that he would care to create here. That young man may be powerful, intelligent and kind, but I've seen boulders less stubborn. I'm surprised he fits so well under Kagami. You used to say that about me. Reminded the Yamanaka heir kindly. You basically named me after that saying. A more fitting name there has never been. Thought Inamaru with a quick shake of his head and a smile. If you are trying to understand the young man, you won't until he lets you. He may enjoy his time in this village, but the pull to leave is great in him. Reading his psyche reports, the fact that he is astounding with children and has an uncanny ability to attract people to him, along with the fact that he is so closed off, I'd say that he lost a part of him that he knows he can't find here. People of his type tend to develop bonds that are only breakable by death. Maybe that is why he is so protective of Kushina. Confirmed the academy teacher. He seems to put her on a pedestal above the other children. The bond between Uzumaki clansmen is not inconsequential. You can see that in the bond between Mito-sama and little Kushina. Stated Inamaru as he turned to his daughter. I warn you now, do not get between him and that girl. Whatever bond it is that they have, it's nearly unbreakable. Uzumaki look out for each other, and when an elder Uzumaki sees a younger being treated poorly, it's explosive. Naruto Namikaze is the most dangerous ninja in this village, not only from the raw power he possesses, but because only he knows how strong he is, and if I were you princess, I'd get so far on that girl's good side that you land on his. If he chooses to stay in this village, then I have no doubt that he will be not only a great ally, but a horrifying enemy. Hina contemplated her father's words carefully, attempting to make a set of plans to learn more about the enigmatic blonde chunin. Do you think that he is good with children because he has experience, or because he had a terrible childhood? Now Anakin, if you are planning on dating that young man, then he has to have a formal dinner with his family. Teased Inamaru. Add. Uchiha District. Kagami sat in his living room, looking over a chakra training scroll that his favorite new blonde had given his as a thank you gift. It was rather simple, a variation of the water walking that was helpful to those with large chakra reserves, but in the margins were hand-scribbled notes on different ways to train one's element using the same tricks. Kagami had toyed with the idea of adopting the young teen, but he knew the elders would make a fuss. Besides, he found himself laughing at the image of Naruto treating him like a father. The young man could, without a doubt, beat him in almost every possible ninja field. A knock at the door drew Kagami's attention away from the scroll, a contemplating look running across his visage. Come in Danzo, you are welcome here. The door slid open, a slight thumping noise as whoever had been with Danzo left. Danzo strolled carefully into the house, knowing better than to think that he was perfectly safe. His teammate had always been able to read him, and Danzo didn't care for it much. Finding an empty chair, Danzo took a seat, his eye scanning Kagami's face. What exactly do you need, Danzo? Stated Kagami kindly, though Danzo knew that the Uchiha was already on to him. I'd like to know about the new academy liaison. He interests me. Stated Danzo directly, finding no point in being indirect with the only man he trusted as much as Sarutobi. I figured as much. Stated Kagami as he stashed away the scroll he has been reading. He won't join your route, Danzo. I don't want him en route. Replied Danzo, shocking the Uchiha. I want to know who he is. Naruto Namikaze. I'm sure you have read his file by now. Stated Kagami with a grin. He loved shocking Danzo, and he was sure that this would be a bombshell. I believe he is the son or grandson of Tobirama-sensei. What? Danzo nearly shouted. That's impossible, his file states that he is 17 years old. Yes, and Sensei died 23 years ago Danzo. And the only thing that states that Namikaze is 17 is a little piece of paper that was only recently declassified. Stated Kagami. Besides, I'm sure you know the rumors by now. The boy knows the Hiraishin. He is much better with it than Sensei was. You have seen it? Questioned Danzo. Seen it? I felt it. He can move people at will, I was a victim. Remembered Kagami. Little bastard surprised me with it. Felt like I was going to throw up. Danzo sat in silence. If the boy knew Hiraishin, then he would be too troublesome to deal with. He would have to simply bide his time until the boy was settled in and try to get him assigned to Anbu. I know that look Danzo, you can't have him. You can't tempt him with power or the Anbu lifestyle. Reminded Kagami. He's out of your hands. You seem to underestimate me, my old friend. Hokage's office. A battle of titanic proportions was raging. No, not the battle of nations, or even the eternal battle with paperwork, which has claimed countless days of each Kage's life. No, this battle was between Hiruzen Sarutobi, the legendary professor, the strongest Kage in the lands, and his newest rival, his itchy robes. The Sarutobi feverishly scratched his calf, muttering curses at his robes. I'm having new robes commissioned the second Higurashi gets back into town. I've had enough of this. Crack. Sarutobi paused, looking around to see what it was that had broken during his vigorous scratching. Hopefully it wasn't something that Bawako got me. She still hasn't let me off the hook from. On the corner of his desk, Sarutobi caught an irregular glint of light coming from the framed picture of Team 7. A sharp crack running through Jiraiya's face and ending abruptly under Tsunade's chin, almost as if it were dividing Jiraiya between Tsunade and Orochimaru. That cannot be good. The Chiha compound. Knock knock knock. Who the hell is it now? Wondered Kagami as he once again got up and moved toward the door. I swear to Madara, if it's those Leaf Scouts again. Kagami froze when he saw who it was that was at the door. What could I help you with, miss? Izushio, how long is this ladder? It feels like I've been climbing for hours. Muttered Naruto. He had waited about an hour, searching the rest of the great room for any hidden areas, but had found none. Now he wished he had just jumped down the thing, but having already found 2 traps, he was glad he hadn't. A few careful minutes later and he had reached the bottom of the tunnel, finding himself in the middle of a wide cavern. Scrolls lined every wall in the dimly lit room, the floor was a rough rock surface, chunks of loose debris from the ceiling had fallen on the ground, created small piles of dirt and rock. Finally here. Good, then we can begin. Stated a spectral figure on the farthest wall, hovering above a set of 4 glass boxes. Let's get started. I'm the spirit of Tamaki Uzumaki, and you have seriously fucked up my plans. Hey, I didn't do this. You think I want to be here? Questioned Naruto after he regained his composure. Hey, Mito had said that she wanted something of yours. I know what it is that she wants, but that can wait. Stated Tamaki as he floated toward Naruto and stood. But to answer the question you will ask next, you coming here has messed up your world's timeline. This world isn't important in my plan. What exactly is your plan? Questioned Naruto. That also isn't important. Dismisses the spirit. The answers you seek from this room are. So ask your questions. Naruto looked at the spectral figure, his mind racing as he looked over the room. What is this jutsu? The spirit cocked its jaw, looking down in sadness. This jutsu is my greatest mistake. After I lost my wife, I invented a jutsu that works to turn back time. Unfortunately, it didn't work the way I had hoped. The first attempt sent me to this world. I landed in what would be Iowa. Knowing I went back too far, I used the rock bed as a seal platform and created an avatar to watch over this world. From what I understand, this single event happened in almost every world. That seal is a homing beacon of sorts for the world's other seals. Unlike my seal, that one can only transport people to other identical seals, and if performed by a non-Uzumaki, it kills them. Tamaki took a second or two to let the information sink in. After I returned to our world, I sealed the information here, in my crypt. It took me 35 years to perfect it, but I could never travel to my own past. I gave up on it soon after. I created the glass containment cubes to finish my work. Emotion to the cubes. These cubes are the portal to and from worlds. Here we have mine, yours, and the source of these problems I've be having my son, Jin. Grandpa Jin? Questioned Naruto. Wait, could that have been the real Jin in Yuzu all those years ago? Yes. After the fall of Yuzu, Jin faked his death and came to your world through the seal formula. I haven't been able to keep good tabs on him, but about 10 years ago, the Shodaime Hokage's youngest son disappeared from this world. 5 years ago, Inoki was named the Tsuchikage. He immediately backed out of the war, right before this world's Iwa would have finished off Kiri. Tamaki said as he shook his head. I believe Jin is trying to rebuild the Uzumaki of your timeline by shaping the world events there. Why wouldn't he do it in this world? He survived, he could have rounded up the survivors and rebuilt. Stated Naruto, his mind ablaze with questions. Because the Uchiha still exist in this world. In yours, they do not. Stated Tamaki. He blames the Uchiha for the fall. In this world, an Uchiha team failed to bring word to Konoha in time. Naruto contemplated his great-grandfather's words. How exactly does he plan on rebuilding the Uzumaki? Nagato is gone, Mom is gone, the only prominent Uzumaki left are me and Gaara. Tamaki sat quietly, his eyes dark. I believe he plans on using Madara Uchiha's Rinnegan to cast the Uchiha's ultimate jutsu. The Infinite Tsukuyomi is a worldwide Jinjutsu that Jin wants to program it to force the remaining Uzumaki out of hiding and rebuild the Uzumaki with him as king. How does my coming here change anything then? The masked man, the one that enacted the jutsu, he was the one that was supposed to cast that Infinite Tsukuyomi. He died sending you here. I am the avatar of the Tamaki of your world. The Madara that Jin has with him is not the Madara that you met with the Senjus and I, stated Tamaki, sending a chill up Naruto's spine. That Madara is the avatar of the Madara of this world. Their Madara is still at large. Then I need to get back. If there are two Madaras, then I need to be there. Stated Naruto, his mind made up. That's not exactly possible. What? You see, you are not Naruto. You are his avatar, his clone if you will. You can only die or stay here, you won't survive being taken back to your world. Stated Tamaki apologetically. That is why you do not have your Rinnegan, and that is why Kurama did not come with you. How does this avatar work? Questioned Naruto angrily. This body works like a normal body, I eat, I pee, I shit, I can get never mind that. There are no clones that can do that. When you got sent back, you took over a body and it was altered by your physical chakra to become a carbon copy of your actual body, right down to the seals. But like I said, anything that wasn't part of your natural being was left out. Do not worry, Kurama is still sealed in your natural body. Stated Tamaki. You are technically you, but your mind is just a clone. Once I clear your glass box, you will reconnect with your body and your world. So you're saying that I will merge with my natural self. But you said this body can't leave here. If you choose to live, you will link with your old body, allowing the real you to return. No memories will be shared, and once one dies, the other will as well. Stated Tamaki. However, if you choose to sacrifice this body and your existence in this world, then your experiences will transfer as well. Can you inform my real self about Jin and Madara? Questioned Naruto. No. I can only bring your spirit back to your world. As an avatar myself, I will die the second I fully leave this world. Tamaki informed Naruto. We only have one shot. The choice is up to you. No matter what, my existence will end. Is there any way to inform my other self and break the link? Stated Naruto. Tamaki narrowed his eyes. You wish to stay in this world. Naruto hung his head. If it's possible. I like the life I built here. You said it yourself, if I want my actual self to have all the information, I'd die anyways. If you wish, but without the link, there is no telling how long your avatar will last. It's the reason I haven't broken Jin's glass box. Stated Tamaki. It could be minutes, it could be years. But the most that body will last is to the day you got sent back in your time. Then I'd like to do that. Stated Naruto. Has anyone ever told you that you were smart? Questioned Tamaki. Yes. They lied. Get ready, this is going to really hurt the both of us. Konoha, Hokage's office. Danzo was not ready for this sight. In fact, it had been the last thing that he would have thought he would see Hiruzen Sarutobi doing. He laid on the brand new couch in his office, staring at the ceiling, eating pancakes. You would like a pancake, wouldn't you? Did you smell them from the Anbu building? No, I am here to ask about a ninja I have been hearing rumors about. Stated Danzo as he watched his eccentric ex-teammate somehow manage to take the last pancake, roll it into a funnel and the remaining syrup from the plate into the pancake funnel and into his mouth. How do you not gain weight? Sarutobi sat up, eating the pancake like a burrito. I exercise daily. Hiruzen, last week I watched you eat a roasted chicken. Danzo reminded. By yourself. I eat when I am lost in thought. You know that, Danzo. Would you rather I start smoking? Stated Sarutobi as he sat back behind his desk. Now, I assume you are coming to ask about Namikaze. You are correct. Confirmed Danzo. I'd like to know where he was before he started his time at the academy. In an orphanage outside of Glassport. Stated Sarutobi as if it was the easiest answer in the world. If you were unable to dig up the history of a 7-year-old boy, I'm afraid that you are failing, my old friend. Danzo took a few seconds to understand what Sarutobi had said. No, you fool. The liaison, not the boy. Ah yes, Naruto. Dismissed Hiruzen with a small smirk. What questions do you have about him? Let's start with exactly how powerful the boy is. Stated Danzo. I hear rumors that he defeated you students rather easily. I can tell you that rumor is incorrect. Stated Sarutobi with confidence. Danzo's eyebrow cocked at this. Orochimaru himself had told Danzo. Sarutobi was lying to him. He destroyed my students, along with Haddock. Then why are you not using that man on the front lines? He's a war machine. I have an agreement with him. As of now, he watches the academy. Secretly, he is training several select ninja that have been struggling with improvement. Stated Sarutobi, piquing Danzo's interest. No, you cannot have their names, and no, you may not suggest any new candidates for training. And why is that? Questioned Danzo. As of right now, he is on an S-rank mission, one which he most likely will not come back from. Informed the elder Sarutobi, seemingly shocking Danzo. It is of vital importance to the village, but should he return, he will most likely begin taking missions as well as continuing to perform his duties at the academy. With Jiraiya, alright. I've agreed to train you three, but first I need to know what I'm working with. Stated Jiraiya as he looked over the 3 10-year-olds in front of him. I'd like each of you to tell me what your names are, what your likes and dislikes are, what your skills are, and what your dreams are. The 3 children all seemed eager to learn. Jiraiya was sure that was because they were tired of being weak. As they sat on one of the steps of the abandoned cabin they had found, Jiraiya admitted to himself that the thought of just bringing them back Konoha as his genin team had crossed his mind. I'm Conan. Stated the lone female, blue hair, amber eyes and a fair complexion. I like my friends, I dislike war. I'm really good at origami, and my dreams is to live long enough to see the end of this war. Jiraiya nodded, a pang of guilt as he knew that most of the destruction was caused by his village. Well, Conan, I'm going to make sure that you are strong enough to survive till that day. It is also my dream to end this war. I'm Yahiko. Stated the next one enthusiastically. I like Omegakure, though I dislike what it has become. I like my friends and I dislike Hanzo. I'm really good at using my hands, before my dad died he taught me how to build things. My dream is to overthrow Hanzo and find a way to stop all war so that the reign over Omegakure will stop. Jiraiya looked over Yahiko. The boy reminded him of Tsunade's little brother, Kami rest his soul. But one thing was for sure, Yahiko was the leader of this little group. Kid, I've known a lot of people like you. Hopefully that dream can come true, because once again, I support that dream. I'm Nagato. Stated the smallest of them, a pale boy with long red hair and dark violet eyes. I like my friends. I dislike war. I'm not good at much. My dream is to find my family. My mom used to say that there was a lot of us out in the world. Maybe in Uzumaki. The boy doesn't really act like one, but that hair is pretty much a dead giveaway. I'll have to inform Sarutobi, if anything I can tell him that we've got a lead. Thought Jiraiya as he looked over the children's faces. Alright, first we are going to start with unlocking your chakra, then I'm going to teach you how to properly use it. 2 hours later, Konoha Academy. What are you going to do now Uzumaki bitch? Questioned an older Uchiha as he and 2 other students, one an Uchiha and one a civilian, moved closer to Kushina. She was walking home after the academy let out, no other students near her. You shouldn't have beat up Mikoto. Stated the other Uchiha, cracking his knuckles. This off, I'm in no mood for you assholes. Stated Kushina, shocking the civilian boys and enraging the 2 Uchiha. Listen you little bitch. That asshole officer isn't here to save you. Now just lay down and take your beating, or we will make it much worse for you. Stated the first Uchiha. I said piss off. Shouted Kushina as she lunged at the larger of the 2 Uchiha, grabbing his collar and driving her forehead into his nose, breaking it in a spattering of blood before she drove her other fist into his throat, striking his windpipe and firing him to the ground. The civilian was next, as she dropped the first Uchiha, she spun and drove her heel into the boy's side, catching his kidney. Spinning back the other way, she punched him under his right armpit, forcing him completely off balance, where she quickly kicked straight upward, her shin connecting into the bottom side of his jaw, snapping it shut, breaking some teeth and knocking him out. Before she could target the last boy, he got behind her, catching her in a full Nelson, before he lifted her off the ground. You little bitch. You dare attack the Uchiha, I'll make sure never become a ninja. Eat shit Uchiha. Shouted Kushina as she slammed her head backwards, only for the Uchiha's free hand to block it. Put me down. No chance. You're going down for this. You attacked academy students, this is your 5th fight in the last 2 months, and that bastard Namikaze can't save you this time. I said put me down. Kushina shouted as she forced her elbows together. Immediately, 2 sick popping noises rang out, followed by a shriek of pain as the Uchiha let go of Kushina, who swung an elbow back and caught the Uchiha in the cheek, knocking him to the ground as he shouted and shrieked in pain. Kushina turned to see the Uchiha, wallowing in pain, his right elbow was clearly damaged, as was his left shoulder. Kushina simply turned to walk home, already mentally preparing for the hell that was going to come of this. Knowing she was going to get in trouble anyway, Kushina wound her leg back and kicked the first Uchiha as hard as she could across the face, knocking him out cold. What she didn't see was 2 blondes has watched the tail end of her fight, both boys having similar thoughts. Izushi Agakure, do you believe that you are ready? Questioned Tamaki, the glowing red cube in his hand. Once this is done, the connection will be broken, you will never return to your timeline, and you won't have any knowledge of what becomes of your former life." Naruto nodded and sighed. "The real me needs to know the information you have given me. I cannot put my own selfish reasons ahead of my village. It's best to remember, your village is now this world's village. Good luck, my great-grandson. I will see you when the time is right." Tamaki stated and dragged his fingers across the wall, a purple light following his fingers as it opened into a swirling purple portal. "For now, I'm going to scare the shit out of your godfather." Naruto nodded again, sullen as he came to grips that he would never see his precious people again. His girlfriends, his village, Sasuke, Sakura, the branches. Even Jiraiya and Tsunade, he would never see those people again. Somehow, the thought that he could know all those people in this life didn't seem to help. He watched as Tamaki moved into the portal, disappearing completely. The portal slowly closed, seemingly shutting off Naruto's chance to be with his loved ones. As the portal fully closed, a yellow flash of light ripped through the crack, striking Naruto. "Beware the suspicious Uzumaki, red will make way for gold. The golden mind sees the path that will light the way." Tamaki's voice echoed in his head. "False Uzumaki, does he mean Nagato?" thought Naruto as he dropped a Hiraishin kunai and activated the seal. "Golden mind, Akamichi's barbecue and grill, are you sure that is what you saw?" questioned Hiashi Hyuga as he sat with several other clan heirs, his twin brother sitting next to him, both of them newly minted chunin, having been promoted after their 12th birthday. "Yes." Kushina completely demolished all three. Stated Inoichi. "I've never seen it before, usually she fights like a street brawler, but today she fought like a taijutsu expert." Hiashi felt his brother nudge him. Hisashi looked over to his brother before talking. "The raw strength it would take to do that kind of damage is easily genin level." Hiashi nodded to his brother. "She is quite powerful. Perhaps we should instruct our clan members to look out for her. If she continues to have problems with the Uchiha, it would be best to keep the girl safe. Any enemy of the Uchiha is a friend of ours." Nodded Hisashi. "It's the least we could do for the Uzumaki. Has this been a regular problem for her?" "The only I had heard of it was when she had fought Mikoto," questioned Hiashi. "The only time anyone messes with her is when Mr. Namikaze isn't around," stated Chaoza. "Not even an Uchiha is arrogant enough to fight him," stated Tsume, who had just sat down next to Hisashi, who had been her genin teammate. "From what I had heard, he's extremely powerful. I'd say. Father said to be wary of his power," stated Shikaku. "Said that anyone who has such favor with the Hokage is either extremely powerful or extremely loyal." "What does your sister say about him, Inoichi?" "She's your academy teacher, right?" questioned Tsume. "She doesn't really talk about him outside of school," stated Inoichi, not aware of the intended interests his sister had in Naruto. "I know that most teachers have polarizing opinions of him. What happens when he is around?" "How is the girl treated?" questioned Hiashi. "Well, she is more calm when he is around and she is less quick to the beatings," stated Chaoza. "Like I said, no one really picks at her when Mr. Namikaze is around. Perhaps I'll look into this further," stated Tsume. "After all, it's been a while since I saw your sister, Inoichi, I'll have to see how she's doing." Hokage's office. Sarutobi perked up as a familiar face popped up in front of his desk. "Namikaze? I had not expect you back," stated Hiruzen, his eyes roaming the young man. "I assume you returning this soon means you have found something." Naruto once again nodded solemnly. "I am yours to command, Lord Hokage." Hiruzen's eyes flashed with understanding before he leaned back in his chair. "I'm honestly sorry. Would you like to retain your current assignment? I believe the Kushina will need you sooner than later." "Hi, sir," stated Naruto. "Good, but for now I have an assignment for you," stated the Sandaime as he set up a silencing seal around the room. "Jiraiya has discovered an Uzumaki by the name Nagato." Naruto perked up immediately. "Konan and Yuhiko?" Sarutobi nodded. "Yes. I assume these are the orphans you had informed me about. You are to go with Tsunade and retrieve Jiraiya and the orphans." "Namikaze? Namikaze, a moment." Naruto nearly shuddered, that voice didn't bring back the best memories. He paused his step and turned backwards, his eyes catching the yellow eyes of Orochimaru. "Interesting, none of the vileness they held in my time. Thank you for stopping," stated Orochimaru as he caught up with the blonde. "What is it you believe I can do for you?" questioned Naruto. Orochimaru, well slightly off-put, grinned. "It's quite nice to know that you don't mince words. I was wondering if we had anything to gain from training together." "No, you would," stated Naruto, drawing a confused and off-put look from Orochimaru. "I'm faster than you, stronger than you, more powerful. More experienced than you can possibly imagine. I've fought more horrifying opponents than you could dream. I gain nothing from training with you. It is you who would have everything to gain by training with me." Rage flashed in Orochimaru's eyes. "I am a jonin, Namikaze. It would not be wise to pass an opportunity to work with those above you." Naruto smiled and laughed. "Poor Orochimaru. You should listen to your friend Jiraiya. I'm more powerful than anyone in this village, that includes you. Maybe one day you will catch me." Naruto began walking away, feeling the rage building in the snake summoner behind him. "Learn all you can from Jiraiya and Tsunade. You will find Jiraiya a good substitute for me. Only then will I train with you." That gave Orochimaru pause. Perhaps together we would match him. "We barely defeated Hanzo, I must speak with Tsunade." Academy. Kushina sat alone, waiting outside the liaison office. Usually that would bring her joy to the young girl, as her brother-father figure was the usual inhabitant of the office. However, Naruto was not at the academy today. Instead of her favorite blonde, an Uchiha sat in his office. "Uzumaki? Is everything alright?" Came the surprisingly soft voice of said Uchiha. "You weren't sent down this time, were you?" Kushina's shoulders twitched, conflicted as to slump or perk up. "No sir, I both Sensei and Namikaze-sama are gone today." The Uchiha nodded. Naruto had visited him before he left on his mission and had asked him to watch over the brat. "You don't feel safe?" Kushina flinched. She didn't like being called weak, but this Uchiha wasn't wrong either. She turned a defiant eye to the Uchiha. "I'm not weak. You know, you helped my clan quite a bit," stated the Uchiha as he knelt down before the girl, her eyes meeting his in confusion. "My clan has always had a bit of arrogance. The only ones who don't seem to have the trait are my mother and Kagami-sama. When you and Mikoto fought, it showed that the Uchiha were not invincible. It's a lesson that may one day save a life." "You talk like Naruto-sama." Kushina did her best to suppress a giggle. The Uchiha decided to take it as a compliment and stood up. "If you would like, you can help me with paperwork today. After all, you have missed most of your classes, sitting on that bench." Kushina slowly nodded and followed the chunin into the room. "So this is Kushina. Namikaze was right, worry, she may have tough skin, but even she needs some support," thought the man as he sat down and motioned Kushina to do the same. "Have a seat Uzumaki, you sort these by date." "Yes sir." "Fugaku, my name is Fugaku. Senju Estate." Mito couldn't believe her eyes. She held a photograph from before the fall of Yuzu. A tear dripped down her face as she looked it over. She was a young woman when this picture was taken, just days before she was wedded to Hashirama. Her cousin Jin next to her, so much younger than her. She was 20 at the time that picture was taken, Jin had just turned 7. Behind them stood Tamaki, her uncle and then clan head. "Thank you very much for this. It was my favorite picture growing up." Wound out Mito as she kept herself from weeping at the loss of her entire family, minus Tsunade and Kushina. "And now Naruto. He said that this is what you would want," stated Naruto, sitting across from her in the garden. "There was also this scroll, I believe it best that it go to Kushina." Mito cleared her eyes and her mind before looking at the man across from her. "Does anyone see how much he looks like Tobirama? I must believe that young Minato be of relation to him. So you are stuck in this world now, yes? Yes. I've already planned on increasing Konoha's strength and planning accordingly," stated Naruto. "And I have a question about you sealing the fox into Kushina. Now, usually, it is the mother that worries for the son." She joked, having figured out that Kushina ends up being Naruto's mother in his timeline. Naruto grins. "I never knew her in my time. Do you find it odd seeing so many strange and familiar faces?" asked Mito, finding the boy amusing and fascinating. "When I was elected Hokage, I used shadow clones to read every available page in the shinobi archives. In a sense, I am aware of most of the village, except those who did not exist in my timeline," informed Naruto, enjoying the odd conversation. "It's like being absorbed into a book that you have read before. You know most of the characters and you have seen how some evolve and develop, but the second you enter, things begin to change. Then tell me, Pagemaster, do you see anyone who catches your eye? After all, a young powerful man like you often attracts suitors," stated Mito with measurable mirth. Naruto's face morphed into an odd mix of happiness and sorrow. "I know in my mind that I will never see the ones I loved again. I've spent these weeks I've been here preparing for it, but the heart is a fickle thing." "I understand." Naruto couldn't help but think how much older she looked when she said those words. "When I lost Hashirama, I thought that the pain would never go away. It wasn't much longer until Tobirama left this world. Then my daughter and my son-in-law. Even when I lost Nawaki I felt pain. It gets easier though. If you continuously fill your heart with love, the pain of loss will fade." Mito and Naruto sat silently, the statement that Mito had made rung in Naruto's mind, his eyes showing a sadness that he had never really felt in his past life. "You called for me, Grand." The two Uzumaki turned to see Tsunade, a loose top and baggy pants on, a slight blush on her face, as tried to turn her torso away from Naruto. "I wasn't expecting company, is this a bad time?" Thankfully for both blondes, Mito spoke up. "We were just catching up. Uzumaki tend to have strong bonds. I summoned you here because Naruto seems to have need of you. We have to retrieve Jiraiya. Pack for a 2-week mission. We will be leaving in 3 hours from the main gate," stated Naruto as stood and tossed Tsunade a scroll. He turned to Mito and grinned. Thank you for the company, I look forward to chatting with you again, hopefully over less grim content. Yes, run along now. I'll make sure Kushina gets your scroll. Dismissed Mito as she stood to try and match his height. Remember young man, love is stronger than sorrow, and you will find many suitors. Mito walked from the room, leaving Naruto and Tsunade standing in the room alone. Tsunade had a puzzled look on her face, probably from the odd way the conversation had ended, if Naruto hazarded a guess. I'd pack a few extra layers, you seem to be cold. Stated Naruto with a mischievous grin. Tsunade's face changed even more towards confusion before the sudden realization hit. She crossed her arms over her chest, unable to say anything before he flashed out of the complex. Tsunade stood silent, a deep blush on her face before she ground out. Damn it. He's just like Jiraiya. Tsunade began walking back to her room, thoughts racing through her head. Is it am I like or Jiraiya? I need to figure this out. Main Street. Kushina walked sluggishly toward the North Lane apartments. She had spent most of the day with Fugaku, who seemed to be quite kind, if somewhat strict, before she had gone back to pick up her homework. The substitute informed her that they had all been assigned partners and that she was given Minato as her partner for some sort of project. She knew he lived in the same apartments as her pseudo-guardian, strangely enough just 2 doors down from him. She had wished she had gotten someone different but set those thoughts aside when she remembered that Naruto had told her that he sensed great potential in Minato. Naruto Nai seems to think he is okay. I guess I can give him a chance. Hey brat, how's it going? Naruto. Kushina spun around and launched at the sound of his voice, grabbing onto shoulders of the blonde man. When did you get back from your trip? Did you get me a present? Naruto chuckled and pulled out a Hiraishin kunai. Here, if you're ever in trouble, dangerous trouble, and you can't fight your way out, just throw this, and I'll be there. Kushina took the oddly shaped kunai and looked it over. Really? How? I'll tell you one day. Teased Naruto as he set the girl down. Where are you headed? The compound is that way. I got paired with that flaky kid Minato for a class project, I'm heading over now. Will you walk with me? Asked Kushina, knowing that his apartment was that way as well. Sure, let's go. Laughed Naruto, finding it hilarious that his mother was calling his father of all people flaky. I suppose though, she isn't my mother, and he isn't my father. Tsunade isn't exactly a botchan anymore, I see why Jiraiya tried to fuck her for all those years. As both Uzumaki strolled away, lost in thought, another blonde was watching from the rooftops. It never ceases to amaze me how good he is with children. Thought the busty Yamanaka as her 2 favorite people from the academy walked down the street. I'm going to find out why he is so good with kids, and if I can, I'm going to go to town on him, but I guess I can let Kushina have him for a little while. There is someone I have to talk with first. Main gates, 2 hours later. I'm surprised you're here already, looking to clobber me? Questioned Naruto, silently hoping that she hasn't developed her violent streak yet. Tsunade looked him over, doing her best not to stare at the man that approached her. Instead of his standard Konoha uniform, the blonde wore baggy Anbu pants, a form-fitting black tank top, and an odd sleeveless jacket that was black on the inside and a deep blue on the outside. That is what you are wearing? This mission is air rank. That outfit offers you no protection. And I already had confusing feelings about him. Naruto raised an eyebrow before remembering that she was never at the training sessions he held with Jiraiya, Tsukumo and a few others. The uniform is too bulky for my fighting style, restricts me too much. I see. Stated Tsunade as her eyes wandered south. Jiraiya said he would hide out at the base of the mountains near the battlefield. It will take 4 days to get there at Jonin pace. Naruto nodded as he moved past her and toward the gate. Then let's move. Naruto felt a hand wrap around his shoulder and turn him back, a pair of lips impacting his. Oh my lord, I'm kissing Tsunade. Why? Naruto pushed Tsunade away softly, separating them, before he continued walking toward the gates, leaving a confused Tsunade and several shocked people around the gate. Bird headquarters, Anakin. Here to see your cousin. Taunted Danzo as he watched a young chunin walk into his offices. Hina hated coming here. She considered Root to be too militaristic and brutal in their training and mission records. Her cousin Fu had completed his training the year before and had cut off the Yamanaka clan. I want everything you have on both Namikas. Insolent woman, why do you think you can order me around? Questioned Danzo as he stood. Because I'm your daughter's teacher, I can ruin her career in an instant. And Hokage-sama is already suspicious of your involvement in the academy. Stated the busty Yamanaka. If you want me to keep him off your trail at the academy, you will grant me this favor. Danzo's eyes narrowed. And what favor do I gain in return? Your daughter placed with the jonin of your choice after graduation. I believe she would do well with Tsunade or Rachimaru. Replied the Yamanaka. Very well. But I caution you, Saratobi has kept his record sealed as well as possible. Even my records are inconclusive. Hina nodded and accepted the documents that were presented moments later. Thank you sensei. I'll await your choice of instructor once they decide the jonin roster. Konoha's forest, Tsunade. She flinched. They had been running for a good hour when he finally spoke up. Yes. Why did you kiss me? He asked honestly. Naruto had had a small crush on the old version of Tsunade, but more along the lines of adoration for her strength and independence. This Tsunade though he promised himself that Jiraiya wouldn't suffer this time. Tsunade was hesitant with her answer. Not only was she struggling with her feelings, but with how to explain them. That day, at the hot springs with you and the idiot. I heard what you told him, all of it. I didn't have any strong feeling for him before then, but during our last deployment, I started to. I'm almost sure I'm falling in love, but I don't know if I'm falling for the idiot or falling for your words. Naruto nodded, prompting her to continue, betraying no emotions. I need to know. Before I see Jiraiya again, I need to know that it really is him that I'm falling in love with. You two are so alike, and I can't tell anymore. She burst out, unable to stop the words that plagued her mind. Before she knew it, she was pinned to a tree, his body pressing into her chest as he kissed her neck tenderly. Do you know now? Do you feel love or lust? I don't know. Please, oh, Konoha. Hina sat into the library of her clan's compound, her eyes scanning over the pamphlet of information she had gotten from Danzo. The more she read, the more confused she was. It appeared that the rumors were true, he had bested the 3rd Hokage's students, as well as Sakumo Haddock in a fight. Danzo had him ranked at cage level strength, a fact that bothered her greatly. He was far too great an asset to keep in the village, unless an attack on the village was expected, but then why keep him at the academy? She found her answer a few pages later, he requested to stay at the academy on a permanent basis. Odd. Odder still was his assigned schedule. He was assigned from 6 am to noon, the hour that lunch happened, then he was technically free to go. But he almost always stayed late. And the DNA profile was another dead end. Half Uzumaki, the other mostly Namikaze with a few errant markers, with the Namikaze traits coming from his father. No known matches in the villager archives. Exactly how he had described himself. She decided to look into Minato next. The boy was almost unfeasibly intelligent and learned quicker than anyone else in the class. The boy must have come from a serious ninja heritage. But his report was just what she had been told by Naruto. Father was a farmer shinobi who had passed during a raid on his village, mother died at sea. No known DNA matches, but the report stated Senju relations. Minato Namikaze shares several markers of the Senju clan, roughly 25% of his markers coincide with the Senju clan, while the rest is fit to form with the Namikaze. That could explain his shinobi traits, Senju often excelled. A quick glance over his marker readout froze her in her tracks. What? The same errant markers? In this report they are listed as Senju. Hina lined up the 2 DNA readouts before it hit her like a ton of bricks. All of the markers listed as Namikaze in Naruto's files match to Minato's. That can't be right, a perfect match. Maybe they are half-brothers. The same errant Senju markers, the same telltale Namikaze markers. Minato doesn't have any Uzumaki in his blood, so Naruto's mother would have been Uzumaki, like he said, and Minato's matches his fisherman mother. But he said they have no direct relation, does he not know? His files indicate that his father isn't a prominent figure in his life, maybe the father left his mother on her own, she was a shinobi after all. Thought the Yamanaka, after all, he wasn't overly protective of Minato like he is Kushina, but the DNA markers were proof. And if his mother had stronger genes, they would wipe some of the Namikaze and Senju DNA, or even be mistaken as Uzumaki when they were really Senju. Hina sealed the files away and left the library, she had to find Naruto. Konoha's forest. Naruto stood watch as Tsunade got dressed, his mind a quandary of conflicting thoughts and emotions. I just had sex with Tsunade in the woods, and it was great. But it didn't feel like love, just lust. Mei, Tamari, Yujito, I loved them all so much. The only one that reminds me of them is Kushina's teacher. Strong, smart, beautiful, huge. What makes Kina different from Tsunade? Why do I find myself thinking of her, even after I just did the nasty with someone just like her? Naruto. The Namikaze turned his head, seeing that Tsunade was fully dressed and cleaned off, he turned to her. Do you have your answer now? Tsunade smiled and walked up to her fellow blonde. It's the idiot that I'm falling in love with, I didn't feel anything other than lust and pleasure. Naruto smiled back. Good. Then you belong with him, just like I thought. Now it's my turn for a question. Stated Tsunade as they began moving toward Jiraiya's probable location. You have obviously had sex before, and you seem to know more about love than anyone your age should. And? Questioned Naruto, never taking his eyes off the road. He had to admit, the age thing was pissing him off. Everyone seemed to think that age defined the man in this timeline. Why don't you date? We just had sex, it's obvious that you have probably had it before, a lot of it, and you don't seem to be the type to cheat if you were in a relationship. Asked the busty blonde. Both Kushina and Kina Yamanaka told me you had told the class that. I wonder how she knows Kina. No use lying anymore. My family, my life, my wife's and my children were taken away from me. It seemed like I blinked and it was gone. I wound up in this village and tried to get it all back. I was close, but now I suppose I can't look back anymore. To tell you the truth, I was going to ask Kina out once we got back." Tsunade seemed lost in thought, so much of what he said didn't make any sense, but the honesty and pain in his voice seemed undaunting. Her mind skipped the wives part and narrowed in on family. "Family, what exactly is your relation to my grandmother? We aren't cousins, are we?" Naruto barked out a laugh. "No, not really related. Mito is my grandfather's cousin." Tsunade found that unsettling. Mito was old, but when compared to other Uzumaki, she had her children much younger than most. While most wait until around 50, Mito had her mother at 23. She only had one cousin known to Tsunade, the last clan leader, Jin, and Jin only had one child, Kushina. "I didn't know Jin had another daughter. I can see why you are so protective of Kushina now, if she's your aunt. Grandpa Jin didn't have another child." Tsunade stopped, her eyes boring into Naruto's back. "That makes no sense. That would make Kushina." Naruto turned, his eyes golden with square pupils, outlined with deep orange pigment. "I'm only telling you this because I know I can trust you. If you betray my trust and any living soul finds this out from you, I'll kill you and everyone you tell." -5 days later, Naruto looked over the 3 teens under Jiraiya's care, finding they all had a great potential to them. Konan of course would become a great paper user, obvious now that she was the origami-using clan that died out earlier in the war. Nagato, he didn't have the Rinnegan. That wasn't a huge surprise to Naruto, depending on when Jin took this time's Madara away, he wouldn't have transferred his eyes. The biggest surprise was Yuhiko. Naruto could literally feel that the boy was able to sense and harness natural chakra, though not on a level that could achieve Sage mode. Naruto wondered if the boy was from that clan. It meant Tsunade had made it to the small town the house was near 2 days ago, an odd yet relaxed silence around the two as they traveled, with Tsunade asking question after question, most of which he didn't answer. It had taken a bit of convincing, but Jiraiya agreed to come back and bring the children when Naruto said he would help train them until he got a genin team. The reason that Naruto was looking over the children and not Tsunade and Jiraiya was because those two were in the house, discussing their feelings for each other. Just like they had the night before. For several hours. "I have to get some tips from him, I couldn't make her scream like that, then again, I did hold back," thought Naruto whimsically. Seriously, Jiraiya had this kind of prowess when he was this young. He must have been a god in Naruto's timeline. The hours-long sex romps left Naruto with the best chance to get these 3 powerhouses on his side. "So Jiraiya had been training you 3? Asked Naruto as he smiled at the 3 teens. They all hovered around 12 to 13. "Yes, sir. He said that he would be taking us to his home," stated Nagato, a slightly sad tone in his voice. This made Naruto raised an eyebrow. "In my time, Jiraiya left them this house. When he left we came to escort him back. Jiraiya is extremely important to the village and we can't afford to have him training you out here. So he won't be around to train us then," stated Konan. The girl had a bit of an attitude even as a teenager. "Not all the time, but most of it," stated Naruto, confusing the teens. "Jiraiya will most likely become your Jonin sensei. You will be assigned under him. You'll train, take missions, that sort of thing." Nagato was the first to understand. "You mean we will become Konoha shinobi?" "Yep," stated Naruto, though the 3 teens seemed to have mixed feelings about that news. "Look, I know you want to bring peace to AIM, but until Hanzo becomes an ally, you won't stop him. Even if you kill him, some new group will take over. The reign over Kiri will only stop when AIM is at peace." The teens seemed awed by the blonde's short speech, as if he had been reading their minds. "Now, we are going to pack up, eat dinner and head out in the morning." -12 hours later, Naruto walked at the back of the group, his eyes studied the 3 teens in front of him. They would end up much different than his time. Without the Rinnegan, Nagato won't be as powerful, but maybe more versatile. He was sure Konan could become just as strong, although from Nagato's memories, it was Yuhiko's death that caused her to bury herself in training. And then there was Yuhiko. The more he was around the teen, the more convinced he was the teen was from the same clan that the curse seal originated from, but the boy didn't seem to have the schizophrenic tendencies he had seen in the other members. His eyes grew big as he felt a Hration point go off. He only left them with Kushina and Mito, and that meant one of them was in huge danger. "Quick, no time to explain, everyone grab onto me and brace yourselves," commanded the blonde, his eyes serious and his chakra raising. The 2 Sannin and the children quickly complied before they disappeared in a yellow flash. Duration point. Naruto's eyes flashed to Minato, who was face down behind Kushina, who was staring at Naruto with joy, before she dropped to a knee. Jiraiya and Tsunade were already in battle stances, ready to protect the 3 teens, but they were not ready for what they saw. 25 ninjas, wearing Kumo headbands and red sashes, stood on the other side of Naruto. Before anyone could blink, the air and ground around Naruto exploded, rocketing rocks and dirt everywhere. His chakra was more than anyone present had ever witnessed, not even the Sannin Hokage and Hokage, compared to the brutal, oppressive malice and hate that rolled off the blonde. Tsunade, get the kids out of here. Minato's pulse is starting to weaken, and this is no place for Kushina. Jiraiya, fall back with your squad. This is going to get messy. Stated Naruto, not waiting for confirmation before he turned to two men he recognized. The two men, both his peers in his time, stood tall and proud. It was the younger one that spoke first. I have no idea how you got here so fast, but the redeeted girl is my mission. I'm to bring her to Kumo. Shut the fuck up, eh? I'm in no mood for you, and I'd rather not kill the Hokage's son today. Stated Naruto as he felt Tsunade leave with the children. If you know his name, then you know this is the Kinkaku force. The same force that took down your Nidaime. It would be best to get out of the way, chunin. Stated Blue Bee, his eyes flashing dangerously. Naruto had never fought the man, as he died well before his time, but the bee of his time had told him that he was strong and intensely battle-smart. Ah, you think I'm scared of you fools. Why? I'm faster than stronger than the hibachi, and more powerful than your whole little squad put together. Stated Naruto as his eyes shifted from blue to gold. I've had enough of this, kill him and get the girl. Stated only for the blonde to slam his hands to the ground and a wall of earth, half a mile wide and 20 or so feet tall, to erupt before them. Naruto stood atop the wall, looking down impassively. You attempted to not only take a citizen of Konoha, but abduct a member of the royal Senju and Uzumaki family. You have 10 seconds to leave my sight. Most of the newer members of the group were frozen in terror. This chunin, who none of them recognized, just created the largest earth well they could imagine. However, I had other thoughts. He is obviously an earth user. He cannot stand against outlighting attacks. However, before anyone could respond, the blonde finished his last hand sign. Sage Art. Ultimate Fire Annihilation. The white-hot fire that escaped the blonde's mouth covered the landscape, dwarfing the wall as it turned everything it touched to ash. Not even the cries of the fallen could be heard over the roar of the mushroom cloud that erupted towards the sky. The wall had protected Jiraiya and his team, though the heat that they felt was enough to give them slight burns. The wall itself was turned to stone, instantly petrified by the horrifying heat the blonde created. Jiraiya hoped that Tsunade had made it far enough away that she got the children out of the shock wave that came over the wall. Naruto stood still at the top, unmoving as he charged more nature chakra and waited. I should have survived, and the Jinchuriki wouldn't be bothered much. It was a few minutes later when the smoke cleared. The fire had burned so hot and rapidly that it put itself out before it spread, a literal flash fire. The only things remaining in the large, now open area, was 3 Kumo shinobi. They had activated the lightning armor, which must have staved off most of the damage, though he was obviously injured. Blue Bee stood tall, a water wall around him, and a stage 1 Jinchuriki cloak. The final man standing was not someone Naruto recognized, but had hid underground. As the 3 men looked around, Naruto disappeared. Unannounced to them, he had grabbed Jiraiya and the teens and took them to Tsunade before they all began moving back toward the village. It was nearly half an hour later that the 3 remaining Kumo ninja recovered and began their trek back home. Obviously, they didn't really know how to explain their failure to Ai's father. But one thing was for sure, the legend of Naruto Namikaze started this day, and the scarred landscape was proof of his power. Are we just going to sit here and pretend he didn't just do that? Questioned Tsunade as she walked alongside her teammate. Well, her boyfriend now. That would be hard to explain to Sensei and Orochimaru. Naruto was at the back of the group, chatting with Yahiko and making the other children laugh. Kushina was trying to climb up Naruto, and Minato was watching Kushina. What do you want me to say? Hey, saw you have godlike power, what the hell is that about? Asked Jiraiya, his tone joking. Honestly, he has always scared me, Sage mode alone if frightening, but the chakra that was left in the air by that jutsu, that's more chakra than I even have. Tsunade turned back to the road and dropped the conversation. Who is this guy? He shows up out of the blue, defeats us with ease, Sensei and Grandma trust him completely, he fucked me in the woods, second best I've ever had. Jiraiya got lucky on that one. I never imagined my idiot teammate would be so damn good. Where was I? Oh, right. Out of the blue, trust, powerful, way too powerful. He didn't even use ninjutsu against us. I can see why now. I wonder what else he is hiding. Jiraiya's thought process was slightly different. Tsunade's tits, her ass, that thing she does with her tongue, Naruto insanely powerful, her beautiful face, damn I'm lucky, squirrel is that Orochimaru. Jiraiya and Tsunade came to a stop as their teammate and about a dozen jonin and a platoon of chunin rushed toward them. Tsunade, Jiraiya, Namikaze, great. The sensors detected a massive usage of chakra 6 miles that way, they figure anywhere from 15 to 20 jonin. Explained Orochimaru, even his calm eyes and voice showed that he was somewhat rattled. That was me. Explained Naruto easily as Kushina managed to finally climb up onto Naruto's shoulders. Some Kumo ninja tried to capture little Kushina here, so I killed most of them. You fought 15 Jonin's attacks. Questioned Orochimaru as he looked at Jiraiya, who other than some light burns seemed just fine. No, that chakra that the censors felt was Naruto. He wiped those Kumo nin and a large chunk of the landscape out of existence. Explained Jiraiya, waiting for the inevitable confusion that would follow his statement. Orochimaru slowly looked at the blonde man who was harmlessly playing with the 5 children. That chakra was him. The ninja gathered around the group began looking between each other and eventually back to Orochimaru. Yeah, that was him. Confirmed Tsunade. Go check if you want, but it was Naruto. Orochimaru looked unsure but nodded and continued on with his group of ninja, leaving the small group of ninja and students. The group continued their pace back to Konoha. Jiraiya and Tsunade wanting to get back for some alone time, Naruto to report and get some sleep. He could feel that his future was about to get very troublesome. Half-hour later, Konoha. The Hokage's office was rather cramped as everyone filed in. The AIM children stood with Jiraiya, Kushina had yet to leave Naruto's shoulders, Minato stood between Jiraiya and Naruto, and Tsunade was behind Minato. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the famed third Hokage, was carving out and eating a watermelon with a spoon as he watched his most loyal ninja and the accompanying children enter his office. Why are the children burned? Questioned the Hokage before he looked over Kushina and Minato who both had some bruising. I know you don't care for children Tsunade, but that isn't right. They were burned by my jutsu, that giant chakra pulse our censors felt. Other than that, Kushina here and Minato were out in the middle of the forest with a group of Kumo nin. I should have figured that this would happen when I was away. Stated Naruto, giving a subtle hint to Sarutobi that this was an event from his timeline. Sarutobi nodded and motioned his spoon at his students. Jiraiya, find housing for these children. Preferably close to you. I'll need to send them through the academy actually, put them in the apartment build that Naruto and Minato live in. Bring Minato home with you. Jiraiya looked confused but obeyed and took the children with him. He had thought for sure that Sarutobi would reject the children, but for some reasons, whenever Naruto was around, Sensei always became more open to suggestion. Tsunade, bring Kushina home and stay with her. I'm sure she has had a tough day. Stated Naruto, a meaningful look from Hiruzen enforcing the chunin request. After the blonde Sannin had left, Naruto took a seat across from the Sandaime. I assume by what you said, this even was supposed to happen. Stated Hiruzen. Yeah, but it was different. It was when they were already genin, and it was 3 chunin in my time. Stated Naruto before a laugh escaped him. Minato was supposed to take them all out himself. I also assume it wasn't just 3 chunin. And from that chakra pulse earlier replied Hiruzen as he sealed away the watermelon he was eating. Jonin, all of them. Including the Raikage's son and the Hibachi Jinchuriki. Stated Naruto, his tone grim. Those 2 and 1 other survived my wrath. If you get even so much as a postcard from Kumo that isn't an apology, I'll make them into a third-rate village. Hiruzen pondered it. As foolhardy as that sounds, you have a way to do it. Don't you? I felt how powerful A and Blue B are. I could walk through the streets of Kumo and lay my on A's desk without a scratch. Stated Naruto with utmost confidence. I could manhandle A in my time when he was actually Raikage. They are all weaker now, and with this war, I'd imagine that most of the same ninja were lost. Kumo is weak now. Hiruzen stared vacantly at the boy before his face grew into a smirk. I'll keep the option in mind. Kumo, what the hell do you mean they are all dead? I sent you to kidnap a child, how do you fuck that up? Shouted the third Raikage, his lightning armor threatening to activate as lightning chakra discharged from his frame. That girl had a little blonde tag along that caught up. That little blonde threw an odd kunai that he got from the target and moments later, Jiraiya, Tsunade and 1 chunin showed up. Explained A, who slightly relaxed when he saw his father calm down. So Hiruzen's students are as strong as the rumors say. To think 3 18-year-olds stood against Hanzo. Mumbled the Raikage. You said nothing of Orochimaru, I assume that means he wasn't there. Who was the chunin? I have no clue who that blonde chunin was, but he was the one who killed everyone. With 2 jutsu. Stated A, expecting his father to go ballistic. But he didn't, instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a scroll. The mark of Iwa showed clearly as he placed it on the table and unrolled it, placing it in front of his son. The blonde. Does he match this description? A, confused, read the scroll. A. I'm writing this to inform you of the reason we are backing completely out of the war. It has been revealed to us recently that Konoha has been hiding a warbreaker. We believe he is around 16 years of age, spiky blonde hair and blue eyes with light scarring on each cheek. Roughly 6 feet tall, seems to switch between traditional style armors and a chunin vest. No jonin patch or other rank identifiers. This man is at or possibly above Kage level. Possible apprentice of Hiruzen, our information comes from a source in Konoha who claims that in the last month they have been showing him off a bit. It is highly advisable that you back out of this war as well. It is believed that this man is on the same level as Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha. Inoki. The got done reading the message and nodded. That is him. He used a massive earth jutsu and some form of extremely powerful fire jutsu that cleared nearly a square mile of forest. It would make sense if he was trained by the third Hokage. Gather my guard, I will be going to see this battle site myself. Naruto's apartment, 20 minutes later. Naruto had to chuckle to himself. He had just heard a knock at the door, about a minute after he had changed into a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. A quick burst of nature chakra had informed him that it wasn't anyone he had been expected, like Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kino or Orochimaru, it was Minato. Come on in, brat. What do you need? He called out from his kitchen table. A few seconds later, the door hesitantly opened and Minato slowly stepped into the apartment, moving slowly, as if one wrong move would lead to him being attacked. Naruto had to hold in the mirth as Minato locked eyes with him and froze. Naruto waited a few seconds and motioned the boy over to the table. Come sit down, I was about to eat lunch. You want some? Minato looked surprised, but nodded and took a spot across from where Naruto had been sitting. In a flash, a bowl of noodles was in front of the boy and Naruto was back in the chair. Minato watched, unnerved as his school liaison officer ate the noodles. Eventually Minato joined him and after the first bite, he threw caution to the wind and began scarfing down the delicious noodles as fast as he could. Naruto smirked and finished his meal. He had to admit, when he was younger, he had thought he acted more like Kushina, but he was now sure his eating habits came from Minato. Once they were both done, Naruto sat back and unsealed a scroll from his arm, looking over its contents. Minato just sat there and looked over his new idol. Should I ask him? He probably has better things to do. I mean, Lady Tsunade and Jiraiya said that he's so strong. But I have to get stronger, I don't want Kushina-chan to think I'm weak. That's it, I'll ask Kai. You want me to train you? Minato nearly fell out of his chair. What? You came over here for a reason, and I doubt it was because you thought I was going to feed you. Stated Naruto, not looking up from the scroll. And if you're here to thank me, don't bother. I'd take a kunai for Kushina, you just happened to be there. Minato just sat there, his mind spinning. Wait, what? No, that's not I need to get stronger. Naruto actually lifted his head. Why do you need to get stronger? Because I don't want the people I like getting hurt anymore. I don't want to feel defenseless. If those people are after Kushina, then they might come back and I'll be ready for them. I will protect her. Declared Minato, his eyes flashing determination. You might not get there in time and I can't let anything happen to my friends again. He likes her that much already? Pondered Naruto. That was odd, his journal had said that he didn't have any real feelings for her until they became genin. That was another 3 years away in his timeline. What exactly makes you think you can get any stronger? Most ninja your age hit the wall soon. You might not be able to. I'm going to, damn it. I don't care if I'm not talented or smart enough. I'll just get stronger, I'll get faster, I'll study, I'll train. I'm not going to let something like that stop me. Calm the fuck down, kid. Stated Naruto, jarring the younger Namikaze. Naruto rolled up his scroll and handed it to the boy. I'm not allowed to train any academy students. Become a genin and I'll train you. Minato took the scroll and looked through it. Wait, these are all chakra exercises and training notes. What are you talking about? I thought I was handing you a cookbook. Laughed Naruto as he pointed at the door and winked at Minato. I'll see you at school on Monday, kid. Minato looked at the scroll and back at the older blonde before a huge smile spread across his face. Thank you, sensei. I'll make sure I learn everything in this scroll. Minato then bolted out of the apartment and disappeared down the walkway. Well, since Jiraiya will have his hands full with Lil Akatsuki, I guess I'll just have to take a genin team, laughed Naruto before a wave of memories hit him like a brick. Shisui, Rimi, Azumi. Great. It was turning into a depression day. Naruto got up and closed the door. On his way back to the table to clean up, his mind once again began to wander. That's not your life anymore. Your life is here. Damn it, I miss my brats. I miss my friends. I miss Yujito and Mei and Tamari. I need to move on, I guess. Might start with the kids. 2 days later, academy. Class, I'd like you to meet your new classmates. Stated Kina as she walked the 3 teens to the front of the room. She absent-mindedly noted that Kushina was not in class. That was somewhat normal, but with Naruto back in the academy she didn't worry about it. Hey Minato, you aren't the new kid anymore. Laughed an Inuzuka from the back of the class. That's enough, Tsume. Anyway, I'd like you to meet Nagato, Yahiko and Konan. They were all brought to the village by Lady Tsunade and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Stated the blonde teacher as she pointed the children out. And Naruto-sama. Corrected Konan, getting a strange look from several members of the class, including Kina. I see. If you 3 could take your seats, we can get started with today's lesson. Replied Kina happily. She had been looking for Naruto for a while, and with the commotion on Saturday morning, she hadn't gotten the chance. Especially since she had been filling in at the barrier division and she had been part of the team that saw the mysterious chakra pulse. As the three orphans moved to different open seats, they found that the students around them were somewhat friendly, though they asked a lot about where they were from and if they really knew Naruto. Alright class, today we are going to get back here you little shit. Wait, that was Naruto's voice. What did I do? And that was Kushina. You tried to prank me. You dare touch my ramen. Naruto's voice sounded off again as the sound of a body hitting the wall and a dragging sound came from the hallway. The class waited a moment and watched as the door slid open and a red blur was thrown into the room, crashing into Minato and knocking them both to the ground. Next time it will be worse. Stated Naruto as he strolled into the room. Hi Naruto-sama. Called out Konan and a few others as he walked in. Hello class. Would anyone like to tell me why Fugaku told me this was the troublemaker room? Asked Naruto seriously. The entire room seemingly winced as Naruto brought up Fugaku. When no one said anything, Kina spoke up. My students seem to like you better than Uchiha-san. There may have been some pranks played. Naruto surprised the class when he didn't scowl or frown or even look displeased. Naruto smiled brightly before he threw a thumbs up at the kids. Good work, now you better behave for Kina today or I will make sure Fugaku gets revenge on each and every one of you. Kumo and the third Hokage looked expectantly at the messenger that had just come into the office, a small black book in his hand as he carefully moved toward the desk. Sir, here is the updated bingo book you asked for. And it has our new friend in it. Asked the Hokage as he tried to open the book. I swear, theses were made just to piss off people with big hands. If I ever find the person who yes, page 38. Name? Unknown. Affiliation? Konohagakure. Rank? Believed to be chunin. Height? Unknown around 6 feet. Weight? Unknown slim muscular build. Description? Blonde spiky hair, blue eyes. 3 scars on each cheek, possible clan markings. Great affinities in fire and earth manipulation, believed to have been trained by Hiruzen Sarutobi. Prime reason for entry. Killed 12 Kumo Jonin on recent mission to reclaim valuable asset. If encountered. Jonin Anbu, fight to kill. Dead or alive? Dead. Classification. S rank. They weren't able to find anything more on him. Questioned the Hokage, scanning the page again. No sir. The only man matching the description of the man in our spy reports is an academy worker, but he always wears a chunin vest, and the censor says that his chakra isn't nearly big enough to cast the jutsu that we used. Send a message to Ruko. I want that academy teacher looked into. Also, look into the Yamanaka clan, the appearance would match. Academy, liaison office. I was wondering when you were going to show up. Stated Naruto with a smile. I even stayed late. I have something I'd like to ask you. Hina blushed as she shut the door behind her and sat across from him, a book under her arm. You know, I thought I had you figured out. But every time I see you, you change just a bit. Well, I was called unpredictable in my youth. What can I do for you? Asked Naruto as he leaned back in his chair. Hina took the book she was carrying and placed it in front of him. I was looking through the students' files and I think I found something that might interest you. Naruto leaned forward and opened the book, finding that the first page was Minato's file, including a DNA profile. Oh shit. Could she even get my DNA profile? Questioned Naruto mentally as he looked over the page, finding several markers on the DNA profile marked. Shit. Hina took a second glance at Naruto. Shit. Does he already know? Wait, is it supposed to be a secret? She watched as Naruto flipped a few pages, landing on his profile. Guess I have some explaining to do before I get to ask my question then. You knew? Asked Kina inquisitively. I thought you said that you weren't related. Naruto sighed and leaned back. You probably think that Minato is my brother or son, right? Kina leaned forward, only to watch Naruto run through a set of hand seals that Kina recognized. Moments later, the room glowed and all the noise outside disappeared. That was the Hokage silent seal. What did I get into? I assume by your tone that he isn't. Naruto looked further through the book. It contained other orphans' profiles and even a few Yamanaka. You don't happen to have Kushina's, do you? Kina looked at Naruto oddly before a look of understanding crossed her face. Are you saying that you're related to Kushina? Directly. But why do your markers match with Minato's? It's not like they grew up and had a. Kina went pale as the implications of her laughed-out statement registered in her mind. No, the Uzumaki markers and that weird grouping of Senju markers. Kushina is your sister and Minato is your brother. Minato comes from the Senju bloodline. A rather famous one in fact. Tobirama. I do as well. I wasn't lying when I told you my father was in Namikaze and my mother was in Uzumaki. Stated Naruto as he leaned back and thought of what to say next. That's why you were both hidden. Tobirama-sama had a child. Questioned the academy teacher, doing the math in her head. Naruto would either be the son or grandson of Hinadame. You are the grandson of the Nidame. No, but Minato is. I'm his great-grandson. So he had 2 children. Wait, Minato is your uncle. That confused Kina. The math was possible and all, but that would be an odd split to happen. I asked about Kushina, remember? Kina looked questioningly at the blonde before she took in the features of his face. Naruto could almost see the light bulb that lit up in her mind. I guess I should explain. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Senju. In my world, I'm the goddamn Hokage. What? Are you insane? That's it, isn't it? You're insane. Shouted Kina as she looked at her blonde coworker again. He looked exactly like Minato and Kushina's child would. Hiruzen Sama has yet to name a yondaime, let alone a goddamn. He knew exactly how to interact with Kushina, he was able to work his way into a prime position in the police force. According to Tsunade, he is the strongest ninja she has ever seen. Her brow scrunched as a thought passed through her head. How old are you? Minato is 7, and Kushina is as well. Naruto smiled and leaned back. You figured it out. October 10th, 465. That would make you -17. Stated Kina. Yep. Dad was 24 when he died, so was Mom. Stated Naruto, his eyes softening. Guess that's why I'm trying to get to know them now. Kina looked at the blonde oddly. Are you trying to tell me Minato Namikaze, the yondaime Hokage, married Kushina Uzumaki on June 23, 464. They had one child on October 10, 465. Replied Naruto. I'm not trying to tell you anything. I'm going to tell you everything because you already know too much. Then I'm going to take you, your father, your sister and Mito-sama to the Hokage's office and let him decide what he is going to do with this. I don't have a sister. Kina quickly replied, her eyes widening. He doesn't know, does he? He can't. Wait, Minato becomes Hokage. Yes, you do. Unless something much different happened in this time, Tsunade Senju is your half-sister. Your father married your mother 2 years after she had Tsunade. A few years go by, you come along, your mother dies, Inamera remarries, and 5 years later, you have a little brother. That's why Tsunade has blonde hair. That also explains why you both are busty goddesses. That's also why little Naoki doesn't look much like his big sister. Tsunade's father was remarried, but the clan hid that, and your father helped concoct the story to keep your mother safe. You are half Senju, half Yamanaka. Naruto grinned. We have the same past. Both of us have our little secrets. Kina sighed and finally sat down, her hands holding her eyes. So that's it. You are from the future and you know all of this because you were the Hokage and had access to all of the secrets. That's why you know everyone, that's why the Hokage has such trust in you. That's why you look after Kushina. Pretty much. I never got to meet Kushina and I only talked with Minato once as a result of a forbidden jutsu. Stated Naruto, his eyes looking directly into Kina's. Anything you want to know? Kina just stared at the man in front of her. Free pass, you can have a guy you trust tell you the future. I already know a few S-rank secrets, might as well go for gold. Do I age well? I better not get wrinkles. Naruto's head slammed forward and impacted his desk. Ba-chan. How am I going to handle 2 of them? I know a majority of the events for the next 30 years, and you ask that. What? I'm still a woman. Stated Kina, fighting the blush that started when she asked the question. I just want to know if I turn into one of those old hags. Naruto just shook off the mirror image of an older Tsunade. I really wouldn't know. In my time, you died when you got that nice scar across your belly. Kina froze. Then why aren't I dead now? Did you spare me somehow? No, this world isn't exactly the same as mine. Replied Naruto. Though I have to admit, in some ways it's eerily similar. How about this, what happens to my family? Asked Kina, shaking off the deathly feeling in her spine. I shouldn't tell you. I can tell you that they all turn out good. Stated Naruto, his eyes traveling her body. Damn, she looks good in that uniform. Kina caught the subtle look Naruto gave her and smirked. So future man likes the way I look, huh? Did you have any significant others that I would know? In your time? Yes, 3 actually, but I don't think you would know them. The Mizukage, the sister of the Kazekage and the Jinchuriki of the Nibi. Reply Naruto automatically, his eyes showing pain. I'm going to miss them until I die. Any kids? Kina watched as Naruto smiled and nodded. I adopted 2 boys when I was 14. Shisui and Azumi. They became my genin team and before I was taken from my world, they both were on their way to Jonin. I knew there was a reason he was good with kids. Now I just need him to pump one in MWO bad Kina thought Kina as she sat back and looked at Naruto. 3 girlfriends huh? No, 3 finances. They wanted to all get married together, so we put it off. Stated Naruto truthfully. Wait, you were getting married to 3 women at once? Asked Kina in amazement. Naruto didn't seem to be the kind of guy that would do that. When he nodded, she muttered, what the hell? Were you created in a lab? What? No, why? Because you aren't fair to females. You're handsome enough to be a model in the capital, you are apparently the strongest person in the village, you're great with kids, you are kind, your body is straight up impossibly yummy, and apparently, you were able to woo 3 strong, smart women into loving and sharing you. Listed off the Yamanaka heatedly. The only way you could be any more ridiculously perfect would be if you was as big as your personality. Hina froze as she realized what she just said. Naruto grinned, his eyebrow slightly cocked as he let out a small chuckle. I'm sure you'd like to know, after all, the only way you could fuck me any harder than you were in the classroom a few weeks ago would be if my cock was in your mouth. Hina was almost glowing red as Naruto just grinned at her, but this wasn't his normal boyish grin that she was used to. This one was predatory. He had her tongue tied and her mind was almost completely shut down. Almost. That's not you, I wasn't even you're a pervert. Yep. I've taken every single chance I could to look you over. Laughed Naruto. To be honest, if I was sure I was ready for a relationship, I'd have asked you out already, wooed you, and probably buried myself in you in this very office. Hina just kept getting redder. She couldn't believe that he was talking this way. In the office. Suddenly, Naruto stood up, looked her over once more, and smiled. I gotta go look after a runt. I'll see you tomorrow, keep all this a secret. Feel free to stop by if you're ever in the neighborhood. Suddenly, Naruto was gone, along with her book of student profiles and the sound barrier. Hokage's office. Hiruzen sat, unfazed, as a yellow flash entered his vision. Though it helped that he was currently holding half a melon and was scooping the fruit into his mouth. Old man, do you ever stop eating? Questioned Naruto, who dropped the book on his desk. Would you rather I smoke? Asked the Hokage as he took another scoop of melon into his mouth before looking over the book. Seems I was correct. Kagami was telling the truth. Yeah, you were right, she even had the DNA profiles of all the kids in me. Hiruzen nodded and stopped shoveling food into his mouth as he looked over the book. Nothing secret here. As a teacher, she has access to all of this. Your DNA is odd, but there is no law about having it. She knows now. I've told her and Tsunade. Stated Naruto, his eyes trained on the not-so-old Hokage. I have a clone trailing her, if she goes anywhere suspicious, I'll tell you. I'm not worried about it. It would be better for us if we let that rumor get out. Most of the population would simply discredit it on the sheer absurdity of it. Replied the wise Cage. What concerns me is that she got this DNA readout from someone, meaning someone else could find it and use it to find the truth. I don't know about that. It took me spelling it out to Kina for her to grasp it. If anything, I could just say that me and Minato are cousins and that Yuzu blood is extremely strong. Shrugged Naruto. You going to plow her? Questioned Hiruzen, shocking the blonde speechless. She is very beautiful and those Yamanaka are known to be great in bed. Pervy old man. Shouted Naruto. Watch it or I'll order you to seduce her. Stated Hiruzen, his mouth twisted into a grin. Now get out of here, you're dismissed. Report if anything strange happens. And Jiraiya wanted to speak with you. Suna, sir, you summoned me? Questioned a Jonin as she walked into the Kazukige's office. Ah, Pakura. Yes, I have a mission for you. Stated the third Kazukige, handing a folder to the young Scorch user. Pakura opened the folder, only to find a bingo book entry. After reading it, the Kunoichi locked eyes with his Cage. He's the one. He is the one they are calling Konoha's God of War. Yes. Seems Kumo is deathly afraid of him. The last ninja that had such an entry from Kumo was Hiruzen Sarutobi. Replied the Wind Shadow. I don't think I need to go into any level of detail about how this changes our plans. Sir, I'm only good at one kind of mission, stated the Scorch user. The third Kazukige nodded. If Kumo rejoins the fight, you will be sent to eliminate him. Konoha. Naruto sat on the balcony of his apartment, looking over the courtyard, where several children were playing with their friends or siblings. He spotted Minato, doing a workout routine that seemed extremely familiar. He smiled. It may not be the life he had, but it was a good life. It wasn't going to last much longer, this semi-peace that existed within Konoha. The Second Great War was closing out now, and in record time, Iwa would invade Suna would turn to Konoha for help, and Konoha would drag Kumo in as well. Naruto felt Jiraiya approaching his apartment door. He waited for the knock and called the man in. Naruto was slightly surprised to see Jiraiya wearing his horned forehead protector, meaning he had sworn loyalty to the Toads sometime after returning to the village. Naruto, good to see you. Staying out of trouble? Questioned Jiraiya as he slowly entered the house. What did the Toads tell you? Asked Naruto as he stepped back inside and closed the door to the balcony. Jiraiya jumped slightly. How the hell does he always know about stuff like this? Don't know what you're talking about. You're beginning to learn Sage Mode. I can feel it. Stated Naruto seriously. Which one told you the truth? Fukukasu? Yes. Replied Jiraiya, finding no reason to lie. Would you take me as your student? Naruto looked at the man oddly. You have Hiruzen Sarutobi as your sensei. I don't fight like sensei, and sensei doesn't have Sage Mode like you do. Replied Jiraiya. Look, I'm not asking you to hold my hand and walk me through things, I just need a direction. I fight like you, I'm a wide area kind of guy, but there aren't a lot of us in the village. Naruto looked down at the courtyard, Minato was gone, meaning he had finished up his workout. I'll give you one chance. Meet me in the Forest of Death 1 week from now, be prepared to fight. Thanks man, I owe you one. Laughed Jiraiya as he moved to leave. Jiraiya. Naruto called out as he was about to leave. No one can know. Not Tsunade, not the Toads, and not Orochimaru. Next day, Academy. Naruto strolled through the hallways with a soft smile on his face. He could honestly say that he loved his new life and that he himself would have to seriously consider going back at this point. However, something very troubling happened last night. Kumo signed an alliance treaty with Kiri. Something that shouldn't have happened for another year. With Kiri being the last major country to not sign a ceasefire, that put Kumo in a very awkward position. Kumo now had to either force Kiri to sign the ceasefire or Kumo had to get back into the war. Naruto already had a plan of attack for Kumo, though Sarutobi was hesitant about pulling the pin and throwing him in. After Naruto had explained how the second war had ended in his time, Sarutobi knew that Konoha dominating Kiri in one final battle was the finishing blow. However, now such a move would drag Kumo back into the fight, and Kumo would drag Suna back in as well. That was something that could not be allowed. If the war were to restart now, it would have terrible repercussions that even Naruto was still wrapping his mind around. Hey. Mr. Namikaze. Kushina is fighting again. Shouted a small child as Naruto made his way to the playground. Naruto sighed and flashed away. He appeared just in time to catch a punch from Kushina and trip Minato. Kushina, what the hell are you doing? I said no more fighting. We weren't fighting. We were sparring. Minato Baka said that he wanted to spar, so I accepted. Stated Kushina as she huffed. Naruto gazed around and saw most of the students were watching. Alright, someone better answer my questions, or you all are going to scrub the hallways. Shouted Naruto, even though he was already fine with what was happening. Who was winning? Most students pointed to Kushina, though a few pointed to Minato. Naruto gazed at the children again before he huffed and looked at Minato. Alright kid. They are saying you lost. Come on, we have a report to fill out. There was an audible wave of confusion in the crowd as Naruto and Minato walked inside, Minato's head hung low. Kushina watched as the odd boy followed Naruto in, unsure why she felt guilty. 2 hours later, Hokage Tower. Naruto was somewhat surprised to see Tsukumo Haddock standing in the office as he walked in. He also noticed Mito Dai, who was standing off to the side. Naruto. Once Kasuke gets here I can assign your mission. Stated the Hokage as he continued shuffling through paperwork. After a few moments, a man that Naruto realized was the Eternal Genin walked in, taking his place in line. Now that you are all here, you four are being sent on a diplomatic mission to Kumo. Naruto instantly knew that this was going to either end the Second Great War or start the third. Diplomatic. You will be meeting with Hokage in 3 days' time. As they just signed their pact with Kiri, you will be requesting a ceasefire agreement from them. Stated Sarutobi. Tsukumo will lead this mission, with the rest of you acting as bodyguards. And when they refuse? Questioned Naruto, drawing shocked looks from Kasuke and Dai. Hiruzen looked at the blonde and nodded. With a high likelihood that they will decline the offer, the next step will be Naruto invading Kumo. Tsukumo and the other members of the mission all gasped in shock. The Sarutobi looked at Tsukumo and then to Naruto. The second that the meeting no longer seems salvageable, you will politely withdraw from the meeting. You will go as far as you are escorted and during the night, Naruto will enter the city and do what is necessary to force Kumo to their knees. Sir, are you saying that Naruto will be single-handedly invading our strongest enemy? Questioned Tsukumo, remembering how he had dismantled them in their first spar. Even Lord Tobirama couldn't hope to commit such a feat and come out alive. That is why this is an SS rank mission. Stated Sarutobi, getting a shocked look from 3 of the men in the room. Do you understand what is being asked of you, Naruto? Yes, sir. Stated Naruto, already knowing that he would walk out of the village. Sage mode on top of Hiraishin and Rasengan. Sorry dad, you are going to need a new trick. What are my parameters if negotiation fail? No civilians if you can help it. Genin shouldn't be targeted either. Kill every Jonin you see. Stated Hiruzen. I don't think I need to tell any of you, this mission is extremely pivotal to the future of Konoha. 8th of Kumo, 2 days later. Halt. Are you the diplomatic party? The group stopped and Tsukumo presented the papers to the guard. The guard looked them over before nodding to a man a few yards down the street. Towa here will bring you to the tower. Behave yourselves, you are being watched. The group all nodded and began trekking through the village. Naruto was somewhat surprised that the layout was so different than in his time. Kumo was only invaded once and it was during the period of time before the first war. Hey, Konoha man. What you doing in my village? You got some kinda plan? You gonna try and pillage? Naruto almost tripped as he heard that tiny voice, rapping terribly. Naruto turned to see a small boy, white hair, sunglasses and a white shirt. Kid, we are here on a diplomatic mission. Man, don't hand me that blow, you in here on the down low. Replied the small boy, who was almost running to keep up with them. There was some snickering from the people they passed as the small boy seemed to try and antagonize the blonde Konoha ninja. Suddenly, B was in the air and found himself sitting in the blonde's shoulders. The surrounding crowd gasped, but soon were even more shocked when the blonde started laughing as the small child started pulling the blonde's hair and punching him. "Put me down, sucka. I ain't afraid of fightin' you, brother. Calm down, kid, we are here on a diplomatic skid, not to tear off a lid. Now knock off that hittin', or on the ground you'll be sittin'." Most of the crowd was more shocked by the friendly Konoha ninja, who was suddenly rapping back at the small child. These eyes went wide behind his glasses before a huge smile spread across his face as he slowly stopped fighting the blonde's hair. "Hey man, you rap too. You're pretty cool, even if you are a fool. Hey now, don't be calling me a name, you're the one to blame. You look like you couldn't keep up, so I gave you boost, young pup," replied Naruto, eyeing the people around his group who were not only amazed that the blonde had the balls to pick up a child of Kumo, but because he actually managed to get the annoying orphan to smile and shut up. His team didn't pay much attention to Naruto. It was pretty well known in Konoha that the blonde was good with kids. Well, great actually. Though having heard the blonde talk about invading with a 5 or 6-year-old kid was unnerving. "My name is Killer B, that's me, I'ma be the next Hokage," rapped the small boy. "I'm Naruto," responded Naruto as he got near the tower. "Sorry kid, but I gotta go talk to your predecessor, maybe I'll catch you later." He crawled down Naruto's back and ran around to get in front of the blonde. "Hold up, are you saying that you think I can be Hokage?" Naruto smiled at the boy and knelt down, getting eye to eye with him. "With sick skill like you got, you can be anything you want to be. Just keep grinding, you need to be strong and smart to be Hokage, but you also need to be a leader. Now go on, get to work." The small boy lit up in another huge grin and took off, probably to go bug some people for training. As they entered the tower, an older man stopped Naruto and looked him over. "You make me rethink what a Konoha ninja is. Thank you for being kind to that boy, we haven't seen him smile like that since his parents died. He's a good kid." Shrugged Naruto with a smile, he then shook the older man's hand and followed his team into the building. "He might be your greatest fighter someday." Naruto caught up with Tsukumo and fell in line behind him. As the only chunin, he would be the one that would stand or sit at Tsukumo's side during the meeting. As they entered the office, Naruto saw that the third Hokage was alone, no guard with him. That helped put the Konoha team at ease. "So here is sent a jonin, a chunin and 2 genin to plead his case." Asked A, his tone slightly disappointed. "Though I suppose that the butcher of Suna doesn't need much of a guard. It's a pleasure to meet you, Haddock. Please, take a seat. We will begin as soon as my son gets here." "It's a pleasure for me, sir. I'm a rather large fan of yours." Brown-nosed Tsukumo as he took a spot across from the Hokage. "Interesting," replied the Hokage before his eyes slammed to Naruto. "Interesting that an unknown chunin would be chosen for such a mission. I understand the choice of those 2 genin, both of them are well known and respected, even here in Kumo, but you boy questionable." Naruto nodded. "I too was surprised by my assignment, but I tend not to look a gift horse in the mouth, sir. I also trust Hokage-sama implicitly, so there is nothing to question." I grinned. "That is a very strong answer. You don't mince words, do you?" "Not since I've known him," replied Tsukumo with a smile, knowing full well that Naruto could handle himself. "I am a chunin, sir, not a politician," cracked Naruto, getting a chuck from Tsukumo and a hearty laugh from the Hokage, not knowing that it was a future quote of his son. "That's one hell of a backbone to have on a chunin," laughed the Hokage. "What is your name?" "Naruto Namikaze, sir." The Hokage tilted his head slightly as he looked over the young man. "So he is the academy teacher that matches the man A fought. There must be another blonde. His chakra reserves are barely jonin, he couldn't be that man." He would have replied, but the door opened, revealing the one-day 4th Hokage, who had his head down in shame. "Sorry I am late. It won't happen again." "Why are you late?" questioned the Hokage. His son was usually the first one to every meeting. Lou had a bit of a problem. It's taken Karyov trailed off A as he looked over the Konoha ninja, his eyes training on the blonde. His breathing became shallow as he made his way to his father's side. He grit his teeth as he locked eyes with the blonde. "Glad you made it into the village without hassle." Naruto nodded and let a small smirk cross his lips as Tsukumo thanked the younger man. "Now, Hiruzen said that he was sending you to lay the groundwork for a ceasefire," stated the Hokage, his arms resting on his desk. "I will say, at this time, I do not believe that a ceasefire is the right course of action." Tsukumo and Naruto remained eerily calm. Tsukumo took a moment before responding. "I agree. A ceasefire now would be rather pointless in the long run. However, we had hoped a ceasefire would grease the wheels on a larger, mutually beneficial treaty later on." Both as slowly nodded. It was a simple concept, the ceasefire would prevent any last-minute shenanigans while they worked out the kinks in a bigger deal. "I see your reasoning, however, I believe you may be working off some inaccurate information," replied the Hokage. Our treaty with Kiri, that undoubtedly is the cause of this meeting, was not an alliance. It was a ceasefire. They had attacked one of our ships, and due to losing a sizable amount of our jonin on a mission a few weeks back, we are not at what you would call top form. The younger A ground his teeth as his father listed his failed mission. Naruto bent down and whispered something into Tsukumo's ear, causing the other four ninja to tense. Tsukumo looked at the blonde with an approving look. Go ahead. Naruto straightened up and took a half step forward. We recently received reports that Suna has been in contact with Kiri. With those two still not officially out of the war, it could be applicable for Konoha and Kumo to enter into a full, if temporary, alliance. The joining alone should force them to either bow out or stall for time. The Hokage looked over the blonde again and leaned back into his chair. No simple chunin would have that kind of security clearance, especially not an academy worker. To be able to suggest something like this would require a very close relationship with the power in Konoha. With our ceasefire against Kiri and their proximity to Suna, that would force Kiri to go through us rather than around us. Grunted out the younger A. That would force Iwa to join Suna. They still have a tentative alliance. Stated the older A, his eyes trained on Tsukumo. Iwa, as you know, is still fresh. They hadn't lost much when they bowed out a year ago. Naruto remembered Inoki saying something like that. Something had forced Inoki's hand, and though it benefited the village, it was not a move he would make without reason. Maybe they lost their Jinchuruki. What? Jumped A in the third. What about a Jinchuruki? What do you mean, Naruto? Asked Tsukumo, his mind not catching what the blonde had said. Naruto flashed through a few hand signs, and a small flash of light covered himself and Tsukumo. Naruto bent down to whisper in Tsukumo's ear. Inoki relied heavily on his Jinchuriki in the first war, his troop movement was almost entirely based on getting one of them to the hot zones and letting them do what they did. If he had lost one, he may have withdrawn simply to save the other. Stated Naruto, his hand on his chin. Iwa had a skirmish with Waterfall before they withdrew, with both the seven-tailed beast and the Earth Grudge Fear, it's possible they killed Iwa's centerpiece. But that would mean that they have a loose Biju in their country somewhere. Replied Tsukumo. These meetings are going better than expected. Naruto nodded and released the seal, allowing the room to normalize again. Tsukumo cleared his throat. Sorry, can't be too careful. You're no chunin. Stated the Raikage. Naruto looked at him with a confused look. Yes, I am. I have the vest, I have a chunin job, hell, I get paid like a chunin. The Raikage looked the man over. He had felt it when the blonde activated that seal. He was suppressing his chakra, something only those with ungodly amounts to begin with ever needed. The knowledge that the blonde had was something that he wouldn't trust some generals with. What is this job of yours? Naruto looked at Tsukumo, who shrugged. I'm the liaison officer at the Ninja Academy. My other assignment is as a tutor. The Raikage noted that not only was he not lying, he also matched the blonde academy worker perfectly, but something was still bothering him. Then as an academy teacher, how do you know about Jinchuriki? I'm in Uzumaki. Revealed Naruto, getting a shocked and very apprehensive look from the third and a loathsome expression from A. I know what you're thinking, but I got dad's hair, eyes and last name, mostly because of the whole genocide thing. Then you may tell Hiruzen that we will sign a ceasefire. What? Questioned A, getting a scolding glare from his father. We can agree on a time and date later, as I will need to inform my council of this matter. For now, I ask that you stay the night, it is already rather late, and I will grant you a night stay in my village as a sign of faith. The Konoha ninja were on edge. He had changed his tune far too quickly. We would greatly appreciate that. Perfect. AA, bring them to the VIP room. Ordered the third Raikage. Mr. Namikaze, please stay. There is something personal I'd like to discuss with you. The Konoha ninja froze. Tsukumo attempted to knife the situation. I'm afraid that I cannot allow that. Once again, Naruto surprised everyone. Sure you can. He's already agreed to a ceasefire, what's the worst that can happen? He kills me, and Hokage-sama has Jiraiya, Tsunade, and every other war deterrent standing at his doorstep inside of a week. The Kumo ninja and Mito Dai were shocked at both the blonde's logic and that he was essentially willing to die. However, Tsukumo caught the look in Naruto's eyes as he flashed the sage mode that he had used to decimate himself and the Sannin with, and Tsukumo got the message. Alright. But be careful Naruto, you have a habit of pissing off powerful ninja. Laughed Tsukumo as he lead his genin out the door. Come on you two, let's have some of Kasuke's famous cooking. A moment later the door closed and Naruto channeled chakra to his body. In a literal flash of light, Naruto was holding the Raikage's fist in his right hand, his blue eyes staring into the eyes of the terrifying third Raikage. So much for diplomacy. Laughed Naruto before he let go of the hand. Chunin my ass. A chunin wouldn't have even sensed me, let alone stopped my punch. Growled out the third as he held Naruto's stare. You are the one that killed my jonin. And you're the one who ordered the kidnapping of my clan member. You're lucky I let you son and Jinchuriki live. Stated Naruto, his voice rock and ice against the third's ears. I'm sure he told you, I killed them all with one jutsu. To Naruto's surprise, a cracked a smile. Balls of steel. Have a seat. Konoha. And that is why the second ninja war started. Finished Kina, her map pulled down as she was pointing out different countries. Any questions? Typical of a Monday class, the students were quiet and no one spoke up. Alright. Read chapters 21 and 22, we will review them on Wednesday. You're dismissed. Stated Kina, her eyes tracking to the blonde boy sitting next to Kushina. Minato, stay for a moment. Do you understand your assignment? Yes, Counselor Maku. Replied Blue Bee, the current 8-tailed Jinchuriki and partner of the young Hokage to be. But may I ask why Lord A is not here? The Hokage must maintain distance, should you fail. He must be able to wash his hands of you if need be. Replied the counselor coldly. This is an S-rank mission. Deniability is a must. Very well. As soon as they leave our village, I will ensure they do not return to theirs. Next day, village gates. Come on, don't be rude, you'll come back, right dude? Rapped B, his head tilted up to look the blonde chunin in the eyes. I don't know if I will, kid. The world is funny that way. I might come back, I might not. Replied Naruto as he bent down to one knee and looked the boy in the eyes. Maybe one day we will meet on the battlefield or in your new office. He pouted at that. I don't want to fight you, bro, you're the only one I've met who's chill and raps back. I don't want to lose that over some flack. Naruto smiled at the kid and ruffled his hair. Listen. The life of a ninja is tough. We may never see each other again. In this line of work, you're going to lose friends. Ninja die little B. That's why you have to become as strong as possible to protect your precious people. B, wide-eyed, simply stared at the man in front of him. No one had ever really been firm with him before, and since his parents died, he didn't really have any parent figures. But I don't want to lose anybody. The small boy muttered. Then you need to be stronger than everybody else. Naruto said simply, standing up and maintaining eye contact with the boy. Try to get training from the strongest ninjas you can, do what they say, never stop improving. He nodded, his face serious as he looked at the blonde. Then I'll start by becoming stronger than you, Konoha man. Next time we meet, you'll be bowing at my feet. Naruto grinned. That's a food goal. Good luck, Squirt. Now beat it, my team is coming. See you, fool. Shouted B as he took off, giving the blonde a defiant but thankful look. Taking a shine to that kid. Any particular reason? Asked Tsukumo, understanding that Naruto did nothing without reason. Can you keep a secret? Asked Naruto, his eyes watching the kid run down the main street. He's most likely to be the next Hibachi Jinchuriki. Why do you say that? Asked Tsukumo, getting a grunt from Naruto. He calls himself B. Meaning that he's most likely been chosen as the backup container for Jai the Eight Tails. Informed Naruto, his eyes looming over his squad mates. Are we ready to go, sir? The four Konoha ninja began leaving the village, only to be momentarily stopped by none other than the younger A, who appeared before them with an air of seriousness. Might I speak to Namikaze for a moment? It wasn't a question. Naruto took a step forward and gave the man a calculating look. I'd like to thank you. A ground out, his eyes locking with the blonde. Killer B doesn't have many friends, even myself being around usually doesn't lift his spirits the way that you seem to. He'll make a strong partner someday. How long ago did he earn his spot at your side? Asked Naruto, shocking the Hokage's son. 2 months ago. Replied A, now even more wary of the blonde. I assume, given your lineage, I swear he will not be targeted should our talks fall through. Nodded Naruto, looking over the young Jonin's head. He will have enough hardships, I wouldn't dare add any more. The nodded and began walking past the group. I still hate you, but thank you. I'll take it on my honor to try and make sure our villages stay on positive terms. Moments later, A was gone, leaving a bewildered group behind him. I'll tell you about that later. Laughed Naruto, seemingly relaxing the group. Only you would make a free enemy on your first diplomatic mission. An hour later, Naruto, I'm aware. The group had been traveling at a good speed on their way back to Konoha, high spirits all around at the seemingly successful political mission. However, all good spirits stopped in their tracks as the group came across someone Naruto really didn't want to fight with two genin, no matter how skilled. Luby, I suppose you are here to stop us? Asked Naruto, getting a tense reaction from his team. I won't underestimate you this time. It was no fluke you killed our Jonin, and I'll need everything I have to kill you all today. Stated the Jinchuriki, a red cloak enveloping him. Kasuke, leave with Tsukumo. Get a safe distance away. Ordered Naruto, perfectly still as he stared down the Jinchuriki. This is no longer a battle you can help in. Naruto, good luck. Started Tsukumo as he locked eyes with Dai. It'll be okay, Dai. He can handle this. Dai, who was about to activate the gates, stood down. Good luck, my youthful comrade. I hope to see you soon. Dai and Tsukumo leapt away, Katsuki right behind them as they speed toward the edge of the forest. And just like that, Naruto was alone in the dense forest with a highly skilled Jinchuriki and no Bijuu chakra of his own. Thankfully Sage mode still works. I'll need everything I have to defeat him without killing him, and I'll need my strength when I invade Kumo. Foolish to stand against a Jinchuriki. Stated Blue B as he leaned forward, ready to attack the blonde chunin. Foolish to think your tenant matters. Stated Naruto, his pupils turning yellow and orange marks appearing around his eyes. More foolish for your village to cross me. Twice. We shall see. 10 minutes later, Kumo. The Eight Tails was a highly feared creature within the walls of Kumo. Having escaped twice before, most of the citizens had seen the beast in its most vicious and powerful form. So when the beast literally flew over the gates of Kumo and impacted the mountain that held the Raikage's office, panic was justifiably quick to set it. Ninja mobilized to stop the beast, standard protocols enacted and unsurprisingly, some ninja fled. A ninja assigned to suppress the beast began their attack, only to freeze when the beast stood tall and looked at the gates, steam billowing out of its nostrils. A third Raikage was on the beast in an instant, but like the rest of his ninja, froze when he felt a massive chakra pulse unleash at the gates. The Raikage soon realized that Blue Bee had not lost control, but was still fighting whatever it was that had thrown him into the village. Prepare a counter-attack. Shouted the cage as the hibachi opened its maw, gathering chakra. No one was prepared. No one could possibly fathom the nightmare that was about to unleash itself in Kumogakure. Over the last day, the Kumo populace had grown to respect the blonde chunin from Konoha. The young man had been cheery and respectful, but also playful and unbelievably kind to the future eight-tailed vessel. That was not the Naruto they were about to face. Naruto walked through the gates, his vest removed and his tattoos on full display. His pupils yellow, orange pigment around his eyes and chakra nearly exploding from him as the first ninja approached. He was batted away like a ragdoll, disappearing through the walls of a nearby building. Naruto never broke stride. 3 more ninja rushed him, the same result followed as he batted away the first before grabbing the third and throwing him into the second, both ninja flying away. Soon there were dozens of ninja throwing themselves at the blonde, who continued his brutal tirade down the main street, ninja seemingly bouncing off of him as he increased his pace, his walk becoming a small jog. He was somewhat surprised when the younger A approached him, lightning armor at full power. Rage and confusion in his eyes as he charged, fist cocked back as he unleashed it into the blonde's chest. Or at least, he would have. Naruto caught the fist with ease, swinging the young and inexperienced Raikage to be into his fellow ninja, before he grabbed his ankle, flipped him up, grabbed his hips and slammed him into the street, the ground erupting into the sky as the broad torso was forced through it. Naruto paused to enjoy the irony in that. The Liger bomb was a move he had learned from A in his original timeline. He imagined that the future Raikage would do his best to recreate it. The surrounding ninja all stopped as A lay motionless in the crater, terrified of this blonde monster that had besieged their village. A, the son of their current Raikage, was still young, but he was already one of their most feared ninja at the age of 12, his taijutsu prowess only behind his father and his partner, Blue Bee. When he fell in hand-to-hand combat, the surrounding ninja understood they were no match. Fall back. Attack with ninjutsu. Naruto continued his pace, walking over the downed A and continuing onward, toward where the third Raikage was with a hibachi behind him, which was charging an attack that Naruto was intimately familiar with. Naruto launched at the Raikage, locking hands with the powerful man, stopping him in his tracks as he began pushing back, the surrounding ninja gasping in panic as this ninja physically overpowered their cage. "Why are you doing this?" demanded A, enraged. "You sent your Jinchuriki after me and my team," stated Naruto calmly, a pulse of nature chakra filled his coils as he lifted A off his feet. A ripple of terror spread as the Kumo ninja watched their cage, A, the fastest and strongest man in the world, lifted off his feet and spun. Naruto released his hold on the cage, sending him flying into a nearby building and the 10 behind it. Fall back. Fall back. Naruto turned to the hibachi, the Imari and its more ready to fire. Those who were close enough saw Naruto scowl deeply as he looked over the hibachi. Naruto raised his left hand, a Rasengan forming in an instant before it grew to immense size, nearly matching the size of the Imari itself. Nearby buildings were torn apart by the immense size and force of the Rasengan. Then, Blue Bee let the tailed beast ball go. Naruto charged, jumping and meeting the most powerful of the tailed beast jutsu head-on. Bluish-white met black as the two balls of near-infinite energy smashed into each other, resulting in an explosion that nearly blinded everyone in the village, as well as creating a shockwave that leveled buildings and tore up roads. 10 miles away, foothills of Kumo. Tsukumo had seen many things in his lifetime. It would almost be insulting to compare them to the devastating explosion that rocked Kumo. "Sir, just how strong is he?" asked Kasuke, his eyes wide as he watched the shock wave dissipate from the area around Kumo. "Hokage-sama trusted him to invade the second strongest village in the world," stated Tsukumo. "I'm not sure how strong he is, but I trust Hokage-sama." Kumo. A loud ringing assaulted the senses as the ninjas struggled to free themselves from the debris. The mountain that held the Reikage Tower was surprisingly intact, but the broken body of Blue Bee now lay in a massive crater just above the entrance to the tower. In a flash of light, a blond man was in front of the Jinchuriki, his own clothing singed and torn from the blast, several cuts of bruises forming on his arms, proof of the power of the explosion, enough to damage him even in Sage mode. Blue Bee looked up, his vision blurring as he looked up at the impossibly strong man who had thrown him around like a rag doll. B. Reikage-sama needs to bring Killer Bee here, otherwise the 8 tails will break free. Naruto smiled and knelt down in front of him, a hand on his chest, when green chakra started emulating from his palm. No need for that. He won't have to carry that burden just yet. One of the great things about no longer having Kyuubi in his system, he finally had the capacity to use medical chakra. On its own, he could only heal the simplest of cuts and bruises. But when paired with nature chakra, he could heal almost anything but fatal wounds and amputations. Blue Bee's world became darker and more in focus, looking down and then to Naruto, he couldn't help but look at the man in shock. Healing me? Don't get full of yourself, I'm giving little Bee another year or two at best to be normal. Muttered Naruto, feeling 3 chakras behind him. You never found what completes a Jinchuriki. That's why you are unstable and why your seal is deteriorating. Unfortunately this seal will fail on its own within 2 years. You're healing him? Naruto knew the voice, it was the 3rd Reikage. He also knew that Bee was in the man's arms. He will die within 2 years. His body is already eroding from the corrosive chakra. Stated Naruto, stating to full height and turning to the Reikage and Bee, seeing a 3rd man he did not know, probably the seal master. Hey. Yo, you did this Konoha man, you busted up in here. Was this always your plan, shouted out Bee, seeing Naruto, Sage mode still active around his eyes. Even behind the glasses, Naruto could tell Bee was devastated that his new friend had torn apart his village. Not now, squirt. Naruto silenced him before turning his attention to the Reikage. Just to clear the air. Bee told me he was ordered to kill my men. I'm assuming that did not come from you. The ungodly spike in killing intent was enough to re-establish the fear in the 3rd Reikage. What are you? You're no mere ninja, you're no ninja at all. I fought Hiruzen. I killed Tobirama. You're not human. Call me whatever you wish. I prefer Naruto personally. Shrugged Naruto as he moved to walk around the gathered people. Just look behind you to understand. Looked, Bee still in his arms. His village looked like it had been hit by a natural disaster. You're the Hokage, aren't you? That's why Sakumo deferred to you in the meeting. Lord Sarutobi is still Hokage. I can think of dozens of candidates that are more fitting than I. I'm just an academy liaison officer. Reiterated Naruto, turning his head to look A in the eyes. Believe whatever you want, but know that Konoha was merciful when they sent me. It could have been much worse. If there is a next time, there won't be a Kuma left. I wasn't kidding when I said Sandaime-sama would have all of our war fighters at your gates. Naruto looked at Killer Bee and smiled. Jayuki cares about what is in your heart, not who you try to show yourself as. Tell the seal master to use 8 trigrams, iron point seal. Naruto didn't wait for a reply as he walked a few steps and disappeared in a flash of yellow. He isn't human. Stated the younger A as he made his way to his father, his posture showing the pain he was in and the damage the blonde had dealt him. We need to do something, we can't let Konoha maintain that level of superiority. The 3rd Reikage stared at the area that Naruto had been, then the village around him. He hung his head before looking at the young man in his arms, who was still in a form of shock. The 3rd Reikage was beginning to see the lay of the land for any future war. The blonde alone could cripple a major village. Tsunade, Jiraiya and Orochimaru, at the age of 18, stood against Hanzo himself. Tsukumo nearly crippled Suna in a series of confrontations. He turned his head to Blue Bee, seeing the man struggle to stand. Blue. Do you have enough in you to train a new Jinchuriki? 2 days later, Hokage office. So you displayed your true power then? Asked Sarutobi, his eyes boring into the young man before him. Naruto stood alone in the office, Tsukumo had given his report and the 2 genin were sworn to silence. Yes. I combated the Reikage and his son head to head along with their Jinchuriki. I don't believe I could have been any more direct. Stated Naruto still standing at attention. The Hokage nodded, reaching under his desk and pulling out a plate of ham before motioning Naruto to sit. How would you proceed from this point forward? Well, with how prideful the Reikage is. Started Naruto before he paused, a concerned look coming over his face. We should let them deny it. Excuse me? Naruto nodded. Let them deny it. Let them say the 2 tails escaped or that the 8 tails lost control. I don't think I directly killed anyone, so the damage was mostly to the property. What would that gain us exactly? Asked the Hokage. Leverage? Kumo keeps its pride, I stay hidden from Suna and Iwa, well, Inoki knows who I am, but the general populace doesn't. Admitted Naruto, then a grin stretched his face. We could pull a full treaty out of this. Kumo has to focus on rebuilding its infrastructure. We have a slight troop shortage. From the outside, no one would be any wiser. Ino have fought the most battles in the war. Kumo just had a Bijuu destroy a chunk of their city, and the two strongest nations would form a wall between Kiri and Iowa. Sarutobi sat in silence, his ham forgotten, as he considered what the blonde was saying. Please return to your post at the academy while I think on this. You will be called upon soon, ham. Naruto shrugged and took the chunk of meat from the Hokage, eating it before flashing away. Minus 15 minutes later, academy. Why are you so interested in Naruto-sensei? The three amorphins, while a few years older than their classmates, had made a few friends in the days they had been in the academy. Yahiko was a rather popular young man, charismatic and kind, he made friends the fastest. Konan, while the most reserved of the group, found herself with most of the attention from other students. Nagato was interesting. A very quiet boy, but with his deep voice and piercing violet eyes much like most of the Uzumaki, he was anything but soft-spoken. This left an interesting chemistry in the class. The top student before had been Inoichi Yamanaka, though now Yahiko and Minato were pressing closer every day. The fight for top Kunoichi was between Konan, Kushina and Makoto. And the race to dead last was between Shikaku and Nagato, who didn't seem to pay much attention in class and never tried in spars. Hina found that she had the most talented class in the academy, with several early graduation candidates. Minato and Yahiko were surefire genin graduates at the end of the school year, as were Kushina and Makoto. Inoichi would need another year to physically develop, which was good for him to stay with his friends. Yamanaka always seemed to grow slowly until about 10, then quickly grow after that. Then there was Konan and Nagato. Both were exceptional ninja, but terrible students. Nagato never tried, something that she was going to bring up to his guardian. Konan on the other hand, was odd. She got all the answers right, along with doing well in most spars, but her mind always seemed to be elsewhere. It made her a nightmare to teach, but the girl was obviously learning everything. Which led her to finding this conversation particularly interesting. Minato was a rather reserved boy during class. Even during free time he rarely branched out, but when he did he was confident and somewhat boisterous. You were there, are you not interested in his power? She responded quietly. Minato was currently sitting to the right of Konan, while Makoto was on her left. Jiraiya-sensei says that Naruto is the strongest chunin in the village, I wish to learn about him. Well, why don't you just ask him? Questioned Makoto, seemingly drawn to the conversation. Fugaku says he is a very open and understanding person. I'm sure he would at least humor you. Yeah, Naruto-sensei lives right by me, he's really cool about talking and stuff. Stated Minato, doing his best not to tell anyone about the actual training he had gotten from the man. I thought he lived in the Senju compound. The Uzumaki there are bad enough. The class turned to see one of the quieter students, Tajiko Senju, looking down at his paper. They scanned to Kushina, who looked calm, but on the inside was nearly crying. Kushina, despite Naruto and Tsunade treating her well, was still treated poorly by a majority of the Uchiha clan and most of the Senju clan. Her own family saw her as a burden. She could push the noise out when Naruto was around, but it was entirely different when he was gone. While most people would never tell the difference, Kushina really was near her breaking point when it came to the two clans. Minato and Nagato noticed though. Kushina rarely kept to herself when insulted, but when it was one of the Senju, she stayed quiet. Nagato, as a full-blooded Uzumaki, was offered a place in the Senju compound, but instead had stayed with the other amorphins in Jiraiya's house. He was glad he did, the Senju were nothing like they were led to believe. All of them seemed just as stuck-up and pompous as the Uchiha were made out to be. The door slid open, Fugaku standing at the door. Which one this time? Asked Kina in a defeated voice. Why did her class behave so poorly when Naruto wasn't around? Where is he anyway? I haven't seen him around since. The blush threatened to show in her cheeks as she controlled herself. Anakin Yamanaka. Would you mind stepping into the hall? The tone in Fukagu's voice making the entire class freeze. She looked at him with questioning eyes. It won't take long. She nodded and stood from her desk, walking toward the door before he backed up, allowing her to exit the room and shut the door behind her. Loud murmuring was heard in the classroom as she looked at the younger Chunin. What did my students do this time? It's not your students this time. I've been told to inform you that you are now under probation and not to leave the village under any circumstances. Informed Fukagu. What? Her mind raced as she immediately thought back to Naruto and the DNA test she had gained from Danzo. Then there was the fact that she knew Naruto's secret and had almost spilled the news to Minato. Sorry, Namek has told me to say that to distract you. He should be in the room now. Stated Fugaku with zero inflection in his voice. Good day, Ms. Yamanaka. And with that, the temporary resource officer left the hallway, leaving a confused and increasingly angry blonde woman in the hallway. She took a deep breath and opened the door to her classroom, only to find Naruto sitting at her desk, his feet up on the chalkboard tray, as he used a yardstick to point out things on the map that he had pulled down. See, Kumo is here, and they are the only country, well, only major county, with an open border to us. Usually this would be very bad for both countries, but due to the mountains and wide plains that make up the land of tea, it's hard for either country to move troops through it. It had bitten us in the ass in beginning days of the last war, but it has been a great asset to Konoha since, as now that we have moved ninja into that area, it's actually easier for Kumo to just run their troops through the lands to the west of it or down the coastline, areas that Konoha has control over. But wouldn't that mean that Kumo could easily move their ninja in closer than any other nation? Asked Mikoto, her eyes scanning the map. No, actually it would make it harder. Stated Minato, his eyes scanning the map. Hina paused, as did the rest of the class. Why would it be harder, brat? Questioned Naruto condescendingly, seeing if Minato had the fortitude to stand strong. If that land was theirs or under someone else's control, then Kumo could walk right up to our existing border. Stated Minato, gaining more confidence. But because we both moved troops into that land, it's neutral now. Even if they gained miles of land, they still wouldn't hit our border. But to even do that, they would have to get troops there in the first place, which is hard because of the terrain. With that, we could put more troops on the other borders, slowing Kumo's other fronts down, and still be able to shift troops back to the original border if Kumo broke through the neutral land. The class was silent as Naruto locked eyes with Minato, and myriad of thoughts running through his head. A slow, sinister grin spread across his face. Alright boy wonder, what does that mean for Kusa and AIM? Minato thought for a few seconds and his eyes widened, but he wasn't the one that answered. Konoha could focus more ninja into AIM. With Kusa having been defeated at the beginning of the war, AIM became the battleground between Konoha, Suna and Iwa. Stated Yahiko, already knowing the answer, as he had lived it. Kusa is nothing more than a land buffer now that Iwa is out of the war. Most of Konoha's ninja now are awaiting an attack from Kumo and cleaning up in AIM after Jiraiya sensei and his teammates stood against Hanzo. Finished Conan. Last question, if any one of you gets this right, I'll buy you all ice cream. Stated Naruto seriously before he moved to stand up. Besides, I've distracted you lot long enough from your teacher's lesson plan. The class giggled and turned to Kina, who watched with interest as Naruto sent a smile her way. Alright class, grab a piece of paper and write down your answer. Who's going to be a winner at the end of this war? The class looked confused but quickly wrote down their answers. Everyone done? Good, how about you all stand up for me? Stated Naruto, watching as the class stood up. Everyone that wrote the Konoha would be a winner at the end of this war, please sit. The class collectively looked around before most of them sat down. The only ones left standing were Kushina, Minato, Shikaku, and the AIM orphans. Kushina, you traitor, wait until Lady Tsunade hears you don't think we can win. Stated the Senju from before. Depending on what she wrote down, she is far more correct than you are. Stated Kina, defending Kushina and also standing beside Naruto. She's right. Everyone sitting has the wrong answer. Stated Naruto, taking a step forward. The students all made various confused or angry noises. Yahiko, Minato, Conan, Kushina, Nagato and Nara Kid, who did you write down? No one. Stated Kushina, followed by nods by Minato and Conan. Peace. Stated Yahiko, getting a few odd looks and a nod from Nagato. And you Shikaku? Asked Naruto, looking at the young Nara expectantly. I think I misunderstood the question. He lazily admitted, getting a knowing look from Naruto. If he put Iwa like I think he did, then I'm betting that he knows more than he lets on just like his son. Peace. No one? Asked an older Uchiha angrily. That's bullshit. My older brother didn't die so that like you could spout this nonsense. Konoha will win this war. Your brother died for you. Corrected Naruto, catching the rest of the class off guard with the heat and focus of his statement. Your brother, like every other ninja who has lost their life to this war and the war before it, gave their life to keep the next generation safe. When you graduate here and become ninja of the leaf, you will do the same. That's why no one wins in war. It's simply a cycle of killing and pain that won't stop until all sides agree that enough ninja have died. Once that happens, peace will win for a shockingly brief period of time, then you or possibly your little brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, nieces or even your children will do the same as the generations before them. The Uchiha hung his head. The room was silent, the full weight of Naruto's words falling on them. Many of them had heard similar words before, some of them never heard the words before. For some reason, be it the bond they all felt they had with Naruto or the passion and finality in his voice as he spoke these words, and the lesson began sinking in. The mood somber and damp throughout the room, the Uchiha who first spoke began to cry. Mikoto got up to go comfort him, but the young Uchiha sprung up and stood on his desk, tears in his eyes. Then I'll just keep getting stronger. I'll push myself and never stop, I'll fight through every barrier in my way until I'm so strong that no one ever has to die in my place again. Right? I won't let myself be weak anymore either. Called out Minato as he stood on his own desk, his eyes shining with infinite determination. I'll get strong enough that no one will ever be able to hurt my precious people. I will become Hokage and protect everyone. I'll get so strong that no country would dare go to war with me or my people," commanded Yuhiko as he leapt to his desk, Konan and Nagano following their leader. "I'll get strong enough that no one will ever forget the Uzumaki clan," shouted Kushina as she too jumped up on her desk. "The Uchiha clan stands with its own. If Toki will push himself beyond his limits, then so will I," stated Mikoto as she joined her clanmate on the table. Soon all the students stood tall, determination rolling off the students as they stood tall. Hina stared in awe of her students. This determination and willpower was never seen in anyone this age. Her eyes flickered to Naruto, who stood tall and seemed to command over them, his eyes serious and his face smiling. This is all because of him. He has this ability to inspire those around him and drive them to better themselves. He isn't Naruto right now, he's the goddamn Hokage. Not very hard to see how that happened. This isn't going to be easy, brats. It'll be countless weeks, months, even years of hard work, pushing yourself to your limit every day and pushing past it every day after that, countless injuries, untold pain and frustration, exhausting yourself every day, only to wake up early the next day and do it all again," spoke Naruto, slightly flexing his own chakra, pushing back against the output of the classroom. "You will have to outwork everyone to the left and right of you. You will have to dedicate your life to the protection of everyone else's. Can you all handle it?" "I don't have a choice, I won't let anyone else get hurt again because I was too weak to help," stated Minato, his eyes flicking to Kushina. "None of us will back down. It's time to take our safety into our own hands and protect our own," stated Toki, his eyes momentarily flashing red. The class all nodded, unknowingly pushing their chakra to combat Naruto's. Naruto turned his head to face his fellow chunin. They locked eyes and the confident smirk on his face began to mirror hers. "Looks like you're going to have to up your teachings, sensei." "Really, you started this, I think you should help," she replied with her own confident smirk. "Yeah. Can you train us too, Mr. Namikaze?" "Alright class, your assignment for tonight," started Naruto, gaining the class's full attention. "You will go out tonight and find 3 ninja each and ask them to train you. The stronger the better. From now on, you will do what Kina-sensei says during class, then train with whoever agrees to train you at night. Can you all do that?" "Hi. Alright, class dismissed, go find your new senseis and be in class early tomorrow. We have some work to do," commanded Kina with a large smile on her face. The class exploded out of the room, each student with a list of potential teachers, be it family, neighbors, even famous ninja that they knew lived near them. Soon only Minato, Kushina and Toki were left in the room. "Naruto Nai, can you train me?" asked Kushina, her eyes full of hope. "I'm sorry you three, but since I work here, I cannot train you," stated Naruto, getting a nod from Minato, having been told that before. "Kushina, you go ask Tsunade for chakra control and medical lessons. We tend to have much more chakra than control, fix that now, so it's not a hindrance later. Minato, find Jiraiya and ask for Taijutsu and Ninjutsu lessons. He's a very adept teacher, he can't point you wrong." They both nodded, taking off out of the room. "What about me?" asked Toki, his eyes still moist and his face sad, but determination still in his eyes. "I need to get strong soon. My cousin will be born soon and I want to be able to protect him." Naruto looked at the boy and dropped to a knee. "Now eye level with him," Naruto asked him a question that caught the boy off guard. "Why not ask some of your clanmates?" "No. I'll learn all that stuff anyway, I want to grow stronger than everyone, if I only train with my clan, I'll never get any farther than they did," he stated, his eyes once again shifting back and forth from normal to Sharingan. A smirk fell across Naruto's face. "Then find 2 men, Mito Dai, he's a genin, but he will be able to teach you Taijutsu and cultivate your drive more than anyone, and Tsukumo Haddock, he will be able to teach you things the Uchiha clan gave up on long ago." Toki nodded and took off, he would have to ask his uncle where he could find them. Naruto watched as the last student left, only for the door to slide shut, Kina staring at him with very clear intentions. She walked up to him, eyes locked, before she pushed a finger into his chunin vest. "You have 5 seconds to get us somewhere more private or the whole village will hear this." Naruto stood up, stunned at first before he smirked. "You really want to play this game? It might not work out. I don't have a choice now and you have 2 seconds." She replied, her eyes clouding with emotion. "Better hold on." Naruto looped an arm behind her back and pulled her close, her body pressing into his. In a yellow flash, they were gone and the future, for better or worse, would never be the same. End of chapter. "Now, why would you want to learn from me, kid? You are still an academy student," stated Tsukumo in his front door, missing his shirt and only wearing sleeping pants. "I need to get stronger and I can't wait until I'm a genin. My cousin will be born soon and I need to get stronger to protect them. Namikaze-senpai said to look for you and some guy named Strong Dai or something like that," stated Toki as he looked up at the man. Tsukumo, who had been about to brush the kid off to get back to his marital business, found himself surprised by the blonde's name. If Naruto told him to find me to train him, he must have had a reason. Toki, you're Kagami's kid, aren't you? Yes sir, but I will already be learning everything I can from the Uchiha. If I don't branch out, I won't be any better than the rest of them. I need to get stronger to protect everyone. Stated the boy with conviction. A serious smile crossed Tsukumo's face. Tell you what. You get Mito Dai to train you. If you survive 1 full month of that, I'll join him as your teacher until you make genin. Deal? Toki's eyes lit up as he heard that. You got a deal sir. Do you know where Mr. Mayo is? Mito. And he should be at training ground 5. The words hadn't even fully left his mouth before the small boy was gone. He smirked to himself. It will be good training for when I become a father. Speaking of which, Tsukumo walked back into the house, finding his 3-month pregnant wife still sitting at the dinner table. Who was that? What if Naruto was Hokage before chunin exams? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.